What would you give to save a life? Not just a small favor, not a simple donation, but a part of yourself so profound, so deeply personal, that once surrendered, it can never truly be reclaimed. Imagine standing at the precipice of such a choice, facing a stranger's imminent death, with the only currency you possess being your very innocence. This isn't a hypothetical thought experiment for the faint of heart. It's the stark reality that gripped a young woman named Imani Carter, a choice that would ripple through her entire existence, redefining her understanding of love, sacrifice, and self-worth. It's a tale that challenges our perceptions of heroism, delves into the dark underbelly of human greed, and ultimately asks, can true love truly conquer all, even the deepest shame and the most insidious betrayals? Our story begins not in a grand ballroom, but in the humble, bustling environment of a downtown soup kitchen. The air, thick with the comforting aroma of bread and boiled vegetables, was a sanctuary for Imani. Here, amidst the forgotten souls of the streets, her quiet acts of kindness found meaning. For Imani, a young woman who had known little warmth or affirmation in her own life, this was a sacred space where her innate compassion could flourish, untainted by the cynicism of her surroundings. She was a beacon of hope in a world that often chose to look away, a gentle hand reaching out to those society had deemed invisible. This scene sets the stage for Imani's character. She is defined not by her possessions or social standing, but by her profound empathy and unwavering commitment to helping others. It is a powerful illustration of the inherent human desire to connect and contribute, even when faced with personal hardship. Many of us can relate to finding solace and purpose in service, realizing that often giving to others is the most potent form of self-healing. Imani's quiet dedication here wasn't about seeking recognition, but about fulfilling a deeper calling within herself. However, even in this haven of kindness, the shadows of Imani's personal life loomed large. Her stepbrother, Tyrone, a character painted with the broad strokes of entitlement and cruelty, frequently materialized to remind her of her perceived insignificance. His sneering remarks about feeding strangers while their own family barely scraped by weren't just casual insults. They were sharp, deliberate jabs aimed at dismantling her self-esteem. "You'll never be anything, Imani," he'd declare, his words clinging to her like chains, echoing the pervasive negativity she endured at home. This constant barrage of emotional abuse from Tyrone, and as we will soon see, from her stepmother Veronica and stepsister Janelle, is a crucial element in understanding Imani's deep-seated vulnerability. It highlights the insidious nature of familial toxicity, where the people who are supposed to be your support system become your tormentors. This experience is unfortunately far too common, where individuals are constantly belittled and made to feel worthless by those closest to them, leading to profound psychological scars. Imani's resilience in the face of such relentless unkindness is truly remarkable, demonstrating a strength of spirit that many would crumble under. She found validation not in her family's approval, but in the quiet dignity of her charitable work. One fateful evening, as Imani was leaving the soup kitchen, Tyrone's harsh words still echoing in her head, fate intervened with a brutal hand. In a darkened alley, a man lay collapsed against a wall, his body convulsing violently, his clothes ragged, his lips cracked. He was a silent casualty of the streets, discarded by society. But to Imani, he wasn't just another homeless person. He was a human being in dire need. Without a second thought, she rushed to his side, her training as a budding nurse kicking in. "Sir, can you hear me?" she pleaded, her voice a lifeline in the cold, uncaring night. His eyes fluttered open, dark and glassy, a flicker of desperation before he went limp, a rasped, "Help, please," fading into unconsciousness. This moment is the true catalyst of our story, where Imani's profound empathy is put to the ultimate test. It's a stark reminder of how quickly life can change, how fragile existence can be, and how often we walk past suffering without truly seeing it. The immediate, selfless instinct to help, to not avert her gaze, is what defines Imani. Panic gripped Imani. She shouted for help, waving her arms, desperate to flag down anyone in the busy downtown area. But the city, in its usual detached indifference, offered no succor. People quickened their steps, their faces carefully averted, unwilling to engage with the ugliness of human suffering. It's a chilling portrayal of urban apathy, a phenomenon where the sheer scale of distress can desensitize individuals, turning them into bystanders rather than active participants in humanity. We've all witnessed this, perhaps even been guilty of it ourselves. The instinct to retreat from difficult sights, to compartmentalize suffering so it doesn't intrude on our own carefully constructed realities. But Imani refused to be another passerby. With a surge of sheer, raw determination, she managed to drag the man's heavy frame toward the street, her small body fueled by an indomitable will to save a life. Finally, a taxi screeched to a halt, a small victory against the vast indifference of the night. "He needs a hospital now," Imani demanded, her voice cracking with urgency and exhaustion. This act of dragging the man, physically and emotionally taxing, underscores her unwavering resolve. She literally carried the burden of this stranger, a powerful metaphor for the emotional weight she was about to shoulder. At the hospital, the sterile, unfeeling environment offered little comfort. The doctor's words were cold, pragmatic, and utterly devoid of human warmth. No ID, no coverage, no family to sign consent. Without payment, there is nothing we can do. It's a brutal commentary on the realities of a healthcare system that often prioritizes profit and paperwork over human life. Imani, stripped of all power and resources, pleaded, "I'll work, I'll pay it back. Please, just don't let him die." Her desperation was palpable, a raw, exposed nerve. But the doctor, a character embodying the cynical corruption of power, merely smirked. His lips curved into a cruel, chilling grin as he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a low, insidious whisper, "There is another way." Imani froze, her breath caught in her throat. The unspoken meaning hung heavy in the air, a vile, predatory proposition. The price he wanted wasn't money. It was the last piece of innocence she still owned. This is the story's agonizing turning point, a moral and ethical dilemma of monumental proportions. Imani's heart thundered, torn between the deep-seated morality that guided her life and the desperate urgency of saving a dying man. Through the doors, she could still hear the faint rhythmic beeping of machines, a stark reminder of the fragile life hanging in the balance. If she refused, he would die, a death that would weigh on her conscience forever. If she agreed, she would never be the same. Her tears slid down her cheeks as she whispered into the silence, "God, what am I supposed to do?" And with that, the night sealed her fate. The words slipped from Imani Carter's trembling lips like shards of glass, fragments of her shattering world. The doctor's brows lifted in cruel satisfaction, his mission of exploitation accomplished. "Good," he said coldly. "Prepare yourself. Once it's done, he'll have his surgery." Imani's heart crumbled. She felt dirty, trapped, violated. Yet amidst the ruins of her innocence, she clung to one fragile truth. The man's life would be spared. This single defiant act of compassion in the face of such profound personal cost is what truly elevates Imani's character to a heroic, if tragic, status. This moment forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about sacrifice. Is any life worth such a cost? Is it truly a choice if one option means certain death for another? Her inner turmoil, her silent prayers for forgiveness, her feeling of being worthless, echoing her stepmother's cruel words, all paint a vivid picture, of a soul in profound agony. She stumbled into the hospital restroom, gripping the sink, her reflection blurred through tears. Her dark brown eyes brimmed with torment, a mirror of the shattering of her world. Her stepmother's venomous voice echoed in her mind. "You're worthless, Imani. Nobody will ever want you." This deeply ingrained negativity from her abusive upbringing manifests at her most vulnerable moment, highlighting how past traumas can resurface and inflict pain even in the most dire circumstances. She pressed her palms to her face, whispering broken prayers. "Lord, forgive me. I don't know what else to do." This intimate portrayal of her emotional state makes her sacrifice even more poignant. It wasn't a calculated decision, but a desperate act born of profound empathy and a lifetime of being told her worth was negligible. Hours later, the man, still unconscious, still a stranger, was wheeled into surgery. Imani waited outside the operating room, her knees drawn to her chest, rocking silently. Every passing second felt like punishment. The weight of her sacrifice, the agonizing uncertainty, the silent battle with her own conscience. It was a crucible of emotional endurance. Finally, the red light above the door flicked off. The surgeon stepped out, peeling off his gloves. "He'll live," the doctor said with chilling emotionlessness. Imani's breath caught. Relief, pure and overwhelming, flooded her body. But it was tainted, poisoned by the price she had paid. It wasn't a clean, unadulterated joy. It was a bitter, poisoned chalice filled with the devastating reality of her loss. She clutched her chest, her tears staining her clothes, a physical manifestation of the invisible wounds she now carried. Returning home, Imani was met not with comfort, but with further hostility. Veronica Carter, her stepmother, a woman whose existence seemed dedicated to making Imani's life miserable, was waiting in the doorway. "Where have you been?" she snapped, her voice laced with accusation. "Out with trash again? You disappear while my daughter does all the housework." The contrast between Imani's profound, life-saving act and Veronica's petty, self-serving concerns is stark, highlighting the vast chasm between their moral compasses. Imani, utterly drained, could only whisper, "I was at the hospital." Veronica scoffed, dismissing her immediately. "Don't lie to me. No man will ever want a girl who sneaks around at night. You're nothing but a burden." This relentless barrage of verbal abuse, particularly the attack on her worth as a woman, cuts deep. Tyrone, leaning against the banister, chimed in with mockery. "She's probably running around with some bum," while Janelle, his sister, giggled, smirking down at Imani like a queen sneering at a servant. This scene perfectly encapsulates the suffocating toxicity of Imani's home life, where her every move is judged, ridiculed, and twisted into something shameful. She swallowed her pain in silence, knowing they would never understand, nor would they ever deserve to know the depth of her sacrifice. Her secret became a heavy shroud, isolating her even further. The next morning, driven by a compelling, perhaps even desperate need to see the outcome of her sacrifice, Imani returned to the hospital. She crept into the recovery ward, her steps hesitant, her heart a fragile bird in her chest. There he was, alive, his chest rising steadily now, his skin less pale. He looked peaceful, almost regal in his stillness, a stark contrast to the broken figure she had dragged from the alley. Imani clasped the side of the bed, tears falling freely, a mix of profound relief and lingering sorrow. "You don't know me," she whispered softly, her voice choked with emotion. "And you never will. But I saved you. I hope you live a better life than mine." The stranger stirred faintly, a subtle movement, but his eyes did not open. He remained a mystery, a life saved at an unimaginable cost. Imani turned and walked away, her heart heavier than it had ever been. She left behind her innocence, her dignity, and the man whose name she didn't even know. All she carried with her was the immense shame and a secret that would haunt her forever. This departure is poignant, a symbol of a chapter closed, but with a deeply etched, unseen scar. She had performed an act of immense heroism, yet felt utterly defiled and alone. Weeks passed, marked by the faint chime of church bells in the distance, a sound that seemed to mock the quiet suffering within Imani. She continued her grueling shifts at the soup kitchen, stacking empty trays, finding a semblance of solace in the presence of the hungry, the forgotten, and the poor. This was her refuge, the only place where her kindness was met with genuine need rather than scorn. Yet even here, she couldn't escape the sharp tongue of her stepmother. Veronica's cruel words, uttered before Imani left the house that morning, sliced through her like a blade. "You waste your life feeding the worthless. No man will ever want you, Imani, not when you smell of filth and desperation." This incessant verbal abuse is a prime example of psychological torment designed to chip away at Imani's spirit. She swallowed the sting, tying her apron tighter, refusing to give Veronica the satisfaction of seeing her break, even as her heart felt fractured beyond repair. This internal fortitude, this quiet rebellion against her tormentors, is a testament to Imani's inherent strength. Then, a moment that shattered her carefully constructed solitude. As she carried out the last bowl of stew, her breath caught. There he was. The same man she had left for dead just weeks ago, the same man whose life she had paid the ultimate price to save. Now he stood at the corner table, upright, alive. His frame was still lean, his clothes worn, hinting at his previous plight, but his eyes, those dark, piercing eyes, followed her with an intensity that sent a jolt through her. Imani nearly dropped the bowl. Her heart raced so violently she thought the whole room could hear it. He was alive. The miracle she had yearned for was before her, yet it was terrifying. She forced herself to move forward, setting the bowl in front of him. Their hands brushed for a fleeting second, and the jolt sent warmth rushing through her veins, a confusing mix of fear and an undeniable spark of connection. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice low but steady. Imani froze. Did he know? Could he somehow sense the secret she carried? Her throat tightened, but she only nodded and hurried back to the relative safety of the kitchen. This unexpected reappearance ignites a new wave of fear and uncertainty for Imani, compounding her existing trauma with the terrifying possibility of exposure. It's a classic narrative tension. The survivor of a secret meeting, the beneficiary of that secret, unaware of the cost. The fragile peace of the soup kitchen was soon shattered by the arrival of Tyrone. His voice, cutting through the air like poison, announced his presence. "Well, well, well, if it isn't my dear stepsister serving her little boyfriend." Imani's head jerked up, dread filling her. Tyrone swaggered in, his locks tied back, a cruel grin stretching across his face. "Feeding bums again?" he mocked loud enough for the entire room to hear. "Careful, Imani. People might start to think you actually belong with them." Laughter rippled through his friends behind him, a chorus of cruelty. Imani's cheeks burned with humiliation, but she kept her gaze on the floor, shrinking into herself. But then, a voice, deep and resonant, cut through the noise. "Leave her alone." The room fell silent, all eyes turning to him, the supposed homeless man daring to challenge Tyrone Carter, a man who, despite his own humble appearance, radiated an unexpected authority. Tyrone's grin faltered for an instant before twisting back into a sneer. "And who are you? Some stray she picked up on the street?" The man's jaw tightened, but he said nothing more, his silence more potent than any words. Still, the way he looked at Imani, protective, unyielding, sent a tremor through her chest, a flicker of something she dared not acknowledge. This moment is significant, as it shows Malik's inherent character regardless of his assumed persona. Even as a homeless man, he possesses an inner dignity and a protective instinct, hinting at the true nature of the person Imani saved. Later that evening, as Imani walked home along the dim streets, she couldn't shake the feeling she was being watched. She glanced over her shoulder more than once, clutching her worn bag to her chest, a sense of unease prickling her skin. Finally, she stopped at the corner and turned. He was there, standing beneath the glow of a flickering streetlight. The stranger, the man she had saved. Imani's breath caught in her throat. "Why are you following me?" she demanded, a mix of fear and confusion in her voice. His lips curved into the faintest, almost imperceptible smile. "Because you're the only person who's ever looked at me like I was worth saving." Imani's chest tightened. She wanted to demand answers. Who he was, why fate kept placing him in her path. But fear silenced her. What if he discovered her shame? What if he learned the agonizing cost she had paid for his life? Without another word, she turned and fled into the night, her heart pounding, the weight of her secret pressing down on her. This conversation is a pivotal moment of connection, revealing Malik's vulnerability and Imani's unique impact on him. Yet her deep-seated fear of exposure prevents her from fully embracing this connection, a theme that will dominate their early interactions. Back at the Carter household, the venomous conspiracy against Imani continued to brew. Veronica sat in the parlor, her fingers tapping against the rim of her wine glass, while Janelle lounged across the sofa, scrolling through her phone with a smirk. "I saw her again," Veronica said coolly, "at that soup kitchen, wasting herself on beggars." Janelle laughed, flipping her wig's long curls over her shoulder. "Let her. No one of value will ever notice her." This casual dismissal and derision illustrate the deeply ingrained classism and cruelty of Imani's step-family. They embody a superficial world obsessed with status and appearances, completely blind to genuine worth. But Tyrone's eyes narrowed, remembering the look that strange man had given Imani. Protective, defiant. "Someone already has," Tyrone muttered darkly, a hint of jealousy and obsession in his tone. "And I'll find out who he is." His words are ominous, foreshadowing the dark path his envy will lead him down. This brief exchange reveals Tyrone's possessive nature and his growing suspicion, which will become a dangerous threat to Imani. The following week, the soup kitchen bustled as usual, but Imani's eyes kept drifting toward the corner where he always sat now, silent, watchful. Every time their gazes met, heat rushed through her veins, a conflicting surge of apprehension and an undeniable attraction. He looked at her like he saw something no one else did, something she wasn't even sure existed anymore within herself. But deep down, Imani knew the truth. He was alive because of her, and yet he could never know the immense price she had paid. This internal monologue captures the essence of her struggle, the desire for connection warring with the paralyzing fear of revelation. The first time Imani Carter saw the mask slip, it was only for a moment, but it left her profoundly shaken. She had gone back to the soup kitchen early, preparing trays of bread, when she heard a voice, sharp and commanding, slicing through the hallway. "No!" the voice boomed. "Pull the stalks, now! Do you have any idea who you're speaking to?" Imani froze. The voice was deep, steady, filled with an authority that was completely incongruous with the weary man she thought she knew. She peeked around the corner. It was him, the same man she had saved, but now he was dressed in a donated hoodie and jeans, phone pressed to his ear, his brows furrowed, his tone clipped. "Transfer the account. I'll deal with the fallout myself. Harrington Holdings will not collapse because of incompetence." Harrington. Her heart pounded. She knew that name. Harrington Holdings was one of the most powerful corporations in the city, an empire that spanned industries. But how could a man she had found dying in an alley speak like its heir? The sheer disbelief, the clash of realities, must have been overwhelming. This moment of revelation shatters Imani's perception of Malik and the world, forcing her to confront the profound deception, however unintended. Before she could take another step, he ended the call and turned. Their eyes met. For a moment, a loaded silence filled the room. His expression softened instantly, the hard edge melting away into the quiet humility of the man she thought she knew. "Imani," he said simply, as though he'd merely caught her watching. "I didn't know you were here this early." Her lips parted, but no words came out. She forced a shaky smile. "I just came to set up." But the seeds of doubt had already taken root, deep and unsettling. Who exactly was this man? The sudden shift in his demeanor, the instant return to his homeless persona, only intensified Imani's confusion and suspicion. This encounter highlights the complex nature of identity and perception, how easily we can be fooled by appearances, and how challenging it is to reconcile conflicting realities. That evening, as Imani carried a tray of bowls to the tables, Tyrone swaggered in with his usual entourage. His eyes immediately found the stranger, narrowing with suspicion. "You again?" Tyrone barked loud enough for all to hear. "Didn't I tell you to keep away from my sister?" Imani flinched, her cheeks burning. "Tyrone, please!" But before she could finish, the man rose to his feet, tall and broad-shouldered, his presence filling the room with an unexpected authority. "Respect her," he said evenly, his voice low but laced with steel, "or answer to me." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Tyrone stiffened, taken aback by the quiet threat in the man's tone. He glanced around, unwilling to lose face in front of his friends. "You think you're somebody?" Tyrone spat, stepping closer. "You're nothing but a street rat, a parasite." The man didn't flinch. He only stared at Tyrone with an intensity that made even his friends shift uneasily. This confrontation is a significant power play, demonstrating Malik's protective instincts and his hidden strength. His refusal to back down, even in his disguised state, further suggests his true character and status. Imani stepped between them, trembling. "Stop. Please, Tyrone, leave him alone." Tyrone's lip curled, but he finally turned away, muttering curses under his breath, his ego bruised, but his menace undiminished. Imani's hands shook as she returned to the kitchen. She should have been relieved, but instead, her heart raced. The way the man had stood, the way he had looked at her brother. There was nothing homeless about him. He carried himself like someone who had never bowed to anyone. The incident reinforces Imani's growing suspicion and adds another layer to Malik's enigmatic persona. Later that night, Janelle Carter, ever the opportunist, spotted the man leaning against the corner outside the kitchen. She smoothed her wig, adjusted her short dress, and strutted toward him with a confident smile. "Well, aren't you full of surprises?" she purred, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Most of these men look broken, but you look strong, handsome, different." He gave her a polite smile, but nothing more. "Good evening." Janelle, not deterred, tilted her head, smirking. "If you're going to keep hanging around my stepsister, you should know. She's no prize. Plain, boring, invisible. A man like you deserves someone better." Janelle's condescending remarks are a perfect illustration of her superficiality and cruel judgment, a stark contrast to Imani's genuine compassion. She embodies the toxic belief that external beauty and social status are the only measures of worth. His jaw tightened, his gaze turning cold. And what would that be? Someone selfish? Someone cruel? Janelle's smile faltered, but she forced a laugh, uncomfortable under his piercing honesty. "I'm just saying, don't waste your time." She flounced away, but his eyes lingered on Imani through the window. Not once did his expression waver. This interaction powerfully demonstrates Malik's discernment and his growing affection for Imani, seeing through Janelle's pretense and valuing Imani's intrinsic worth. Days passed, and strange things began to happen, further deepening the mystery surrounding the enigmatic stranger. When Imani's overdue school fees threatened to cancel her nursing classes, the bursar called her in with surprising news. "Your balance has been cleared," the woman said, "paid in full. Anonymous donor." Imani's brows knitted together in confusion. She stumbled out of the office in shock, clutching the receipt. She had told no one about her financial struggles. How could this be? It was an act of profound kindness, clearly orchestrated by someone with means, someone who cared enough to monitor her life and intervene anonymously. This anonymous generosity points directly to Malik, adding to the growing evidence of his true identity and his hidden protective actions. That evening at the soup kitchen, she caught the stranger watching her more closely than usual. His gaze lingered not with lust, but with something gentler, something protective, something that hinted at a deep, unspoken understanding. And yet, when their eyes met, he looked away, as if hiding a truth too dangerous to reveal. Imani tried to dismiss her suspicions, but her heart knew better. He was no ordinary man. His voice, his posture, the slip of that name, Harrington, it all gnawed at her, pulling her deeper into a web of unsettling possibilities. She found herself dreaming of him at night, not just as the man she saved, but as someone who held the power to destroy her with a single revelation. Because if he wasn't who he seemed, then what else was he hiding? The emotional burden of this growing suspicion, coupled with her own secret, creates a poignant internal struggle for Imani. She is caught between the hope of finding genuine connection and the terror of her past being exposed. The storm began quietly. It wasn't thunder that announced it, but the way Tyrone Carter's eyes narrowed whenever Malik appeared near Imani. At first it was only suspicion, a brotherly protectiveness twisted by possessiveness. But soon, that suspicion grew into something darker, more insidious, obsession. Imani Carter hurried down the cracked sidewalk, the evening breeze tugging at her braids, each day feeling heavier, her world tighter. Yet somehow, Malik's quiet presence in that room, his watchful gaze, had become her only light, a small flicker of hope in the encroaching darkness. But tonight, she wasn't alone. From across the street, Tyrone followed, his gaze fixed on her, his jaw clenched as he replayed the silent defiance, that unspoken claim Malik had made over his stepsister days before. "She's mine," Tyrone thought bitterly. "She doesn't even know it yet. No stranger will take her from me." This escalating obsession from Tyrone represents a dangerous and disturbing turn in the narrative, highlighting the destructive nature of possessive love and control. His internal monologue reveals a warped sense of entitlement that poses a significant threat to Imani's safety and freedom. Imani stopped at the corner store to buy a loaf of bread. As she paid, she caught sight of Malik outside. He stood beneath the street lamp, hands in his pockets, watching the world with quiet intensity. When their eyes met, her breath caught, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. He gave her the faintest nod, and for reasons she couldn't explain, her heart fluttered, a fragile spark of hope amidst her fear. But another pair of eyes watched too, Tyrone's, burning with unchecked envy and a dangerous possessiveness. This moment, brief and seemingly innocuous, is loaded with significance. It highlights the growing connection between Imani and Malik, a connection that both comforts Imani and enrages Tyrone, setting the stage for imminent conflict. At home, the domestic tyranny continued. Veronica Carter slammed her wine glass onto the polished table. "Imani, you worthless girl, the dishes are still in the sink," she snapped, her voice sharp and accusatory. "I just got back," Imani began, but Janelle's mocking laugh cut her off. "Always an excuse," Janelle smirked, her glossy wig swinging as she tossed her phone aside. "Face it, Mother, she's good for nothing but scrubbing floors." This continuous verbal abuse from Veronica and Janelle underscores the toxic environment Imani endures daily, emphasizing the relentless belittling and lack of appreciation for her efforts. Tyrone, leaning in the doorway, arms folded, his stare pinned Imani in place. "She's been sneaking around again," he said, his voice low and menacing. "I saw her talking to that man at the soup kitchen." Veronica's brows arched. "That bum? You mean to tell me she's entertaining filth from the streets?" Imani's chest tightened. "It's not like that. He just needed food." Silence, thick with unspoken judgment. Veronica's hand slammed against the table. "If I catch you disgracing this family's name with gutter trash, you'll regret it." Imani turned away, tears stinging her eyes. But behind her, Tyrone's gaze lingered, smoldering with something far more dangerous than his mother's scorn. This scene dramatically escalates the tension, revealing the family's intense disapproval of Imani's charitable work, and more disturbingly, Tyrone's increasingly sinister obsession. The next afternoon, Malik noticed Imani struggling to carry a heavy crate of food supplies into the kitchen. He moved quickly, his strong arms lifting the burden as if it weighed nothing. "You shouldn't have to do this alone," he murmured, his concern genuine. Imani's cheeks warmed, a rare blush of unexpected tenderness. "I manage." "You shouldn't have to manage," he said softly, his eyes locking onto hers, a gaze that seemed to see into her very soul. "You deserve help, respect, more than this." Her heart skipped a beat, his words striking deeper than she wanted to admit. They spoke not just of the heavy crate, but of the heavy burdens she carried in her life. She pulled back, busying herself with the trays, deflecting the intimacy of his gaze. "You don't know me." "I know enough," Malik replied, his tone firm, unwavering. "Enough to see you're stronger than you think." For a moment, silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths, with the burgeoning connection they both felt, but Imani feared to acknowledge. From the doorway, Tyrone watched, his fists clenched, rage simmering. This quiet, tender interaction between Imani and Malik is a powerful counterpoint to the hostile environment of her home life. It highlights Malik's perceptive and compassionate nature, further deepening the emotional stakes as Tyrone's jealousy intensifies. That night, Imani sat at her small desk, studying by the dim glow of her lamp, her textbooks old and frayed, but her dream of becoming a nurse burned bright within her. Suddenly, Tyrone burst into her room without knocking, a blatant violation of her space and privacy. Imani gasped, clutching her chest. "Tyrone, what are you doing?" He leaned against the wall, smirking, fueled by alcohol and a twisted sense of entitlement. "I saw the way he looks at you. That bum thinks he's better than me." Imani frowned. "You're drunk. Leave me alone." He stepped closer, his breath hot with anger, invading her personal space. "Don't you see? He doesn't care about you, but me." His eyes darkened, his voice dropping to a sinister whisper. "I've always cared." Imani recoiled, horror flooding her veins, the implication clear and sickening. "You're my brother!" "Stepbrother," he spat, his voice laced with venom. "We share no blood." Her heart pounded. "Get out!" she shouted, shoving past him. But as he left, his smile was chilling, a predatory promise. "He'll never have you, Imani. Never." This scene marks a terrifying escalation of Tyrone's obsession, transitioning from verbal harassment to outright menace, revealing his deeply disturbing possessive nature. Imani's vulnerability and fear are palpable, making her situation increasingly perilous. Days later, Veronica, ever the taskmaster, handed Imani a mountain of laundry, smirking. "Since you love acting like a maid, you may as well earn your keep," she sneered, her words designed to belittle. Imani silently obeyed, carrying the heavy basket down the street to the laundromat. As she folded clothes, lost in her thoughts, Malik appeared at the door, his broad frame filling the entrance. "You shouldn't be here alone," he said, stepping inside, his presence a comforting shield. Imani forced a smile. "I'm fine." He studied her carefully, noting the exhaustion in her eyes, seeing past her forced facade. Without another word, he began helping her fold, a simple act of shared labor that spoke volumes. Her hands shook as their fingers brushed, a tiny spark of connection in the mundane task. She dared not look up, afraid of what she might see in his gaze. But Malik's eyes lingered on her, soft yet burning with an unspoken promise. From outside, Tyrone's shadow darkened the window. His jaw tightened, his obsession spiraling beyond control, fueled by the sight of their shared intimacy. This quiet, supportive interaction highlights the burgeoning emotional connection between Imani and Malik, contrasted sharply with Tyrone's dark, escalating jealousy. Malik's simple act of helping is profound, offering Imani a rare moment of care and partnership. One evening, a figure of regal elegance arrived at the soup kitchen unannounced, Angela Harrington. Regal in her silver-streaked locks and tailored coat, she scanned the room until her discerning eyes found Malik. "Malik," she said sharply, her tone scolding yet affectionate, betraying a deep familial bond. Imani froze. "Malik." Angela's gaze softened as she approached him. "You can't keep hiding like this. Your father's empire." Malik's hand shot up, a swift, urgent gesture to silence her. "Not here," he warned, his eyes darting to Imani, a clear indication of his desire to protect his secret, and by extension, her. Angela's brows arched knowingly, her gaze flicking to Imani, then back to her nephew. She said nothing more, but the tension was undeniable, the air thick with unspoken revelations. Imani's stomach twisted. Who exactly was this man she had saved that night? This dramatic entrance of Angela Harrington finally confirms Malik's true identity, not just for Imani, but for the audience. Her presence brings a new layer of complexity, hinting at the pressures and responsibilities Malik bears, and the world Imani is unknowingly stepping into. Immediately after this unsettling encounter, Tyrone confronted Malik outside the kitchen, his envy boiling over. "You think you're clever?" Tyrone sneered, stepping closer, his voice dripping with malice. "But I know you're hiding something, and when I find out what it is, I'll use it to destroy you." Malik's expression didn't waver, his calm a stark contrast to Tyrone's agitation. "Stay away from Imani." Tyrone's laugh was low and cruel, fueled by a perverse sense of ownership. "You don't own her. No one does. And if I can't have her, no one will." His words hung heavy in the night air, thick with threat, a chilling promise of future violence and destruction. This direct confrontation between Tyrone and Malik is a pivotal moment, escalating the conflict and clearly defining Tyrone's dangerous intentions. His vow, "If I can't have her, no one will," underscores the depth of his twisted obsession and the imminent danger Imani faces. Inside her small bedroom, Imani sat by the window, staring out at the moonlit street, her heart a battlefield. It was torn between the chilling fear of Tyrone's dangerous fixation and the growing warmth she felt whenever Malik was near, a warmth that was both comforting and terrifying. She pressed her hand to her chest, whispering into the quiet, "Who are you really?" The question haunted her, even as her heart already knew the answer she feared most. Malik was not who he seemed. And when the truth finally came, it would shatter everything. This internal monologue brilliantly captures Imani's escalating anxiety and her profound sense of foreboding. She is caught between a burgeoning hope and a pervasive dread, knowing that the revelation of Malik's true identity, and by extension her own secret, could irrevocably alter her life. The night was quiet, too quiet, and Imani Carter hated the way the silence followed her down the cracked sidewalks. She clutched her bag tighter, her steps quickening as the wind whipped against her braids, each gust a whisper of unease. She wasn't supposed to be out this late. Veronica would be furious when she got home. But the soup kitchen had needed her, and Imani, in her unwavering dedication, had stayed behind to clean when everyone else left. Now walking alone, her skin prickled with an undeniable sense of dread. She wasn't alone. From the shadows, Tyrone's figure emerged, his eyes glistening with a terrifying hunger and fury, his broad frame blocking the path ahead, a dark, menacing silhouette against the dim streetlights. "Well, well, baby sister," he drawled, his voice thick with malice, oozing with a predatory intent. "Walking home all alone? Don't you know how dangerous these streets are?" Imani froze, her pulse thundering in her ears, a primal fear seizing her. "Tyrone, move!" she demanded, her voice barely a whisper, trembling with terror. He stepped closer, the stench of alcohol on his breath, a noxious cloud enveloping her. "Why should I? You've been sneaking around with that bum, thinking you're too good for us, huh? You think you're better than me?" Her hands trembled, but she stood her ground, a fragile defiance blooming amidst her fear. "I don't belong to you, Tyrone. Stay away from me." His jaw clenched, rage flickering in his eyes like malevolent flames. "You're mine, Imani. Always have been." Before she could scream, he lunged, a sudden terrifying blur of motion. Suddenly, a powerful hand grabbed Tyrone's wrist mid-air, halting his attack with a visceral force. "Malik!" His broad shoulders seemed to block out the streetlight, casting Tyrone in shadow, his chest heaving with fury as he shoved Tyrone back with immense strength. "Touch her again," Malik growled, his voice like thunder, resonating with a barely contained rage, "and it'll be the last thing you ever do." Tyrone stumbled, glaring, his confidence momentarily shaken. "You think you're a hero? You're nothing, a street rat pretending to be a man." Malik's eyes darkened, his fists curling, ready for battle. "Try me." Imani gasped, stepping desperately between them, her voice cracking with terror. "Stop, please, Tyrone. Go home before you do something you'll regret." For a moment, the street hung heavy with silence, charged like a storm about to break. Tyrone spat at the ground, his glare fixed on Malik, his anger simmering. This isn't over. Then he stalked off, disappearing into the shadows, his threat lingering in the night air. Imani turned to Malik, her breath shaking, a whirlwind of relief and renewed fear. You shouldn't have gotten involved." But her words died in her throat. That's when she saw it. As Malik adjusted his sleeve, something glinted beneath the streetlight, catching the light with a subtle, unmistakable gleam. A watch. Not just any watch, a platinum timepiece, intricately engraved with the distinct Harrington crest. Imani's stomach dropped, a cold wave of realization washing over her. She knew that symbol. Everyone did. The Harringtons were one of the richest, most influential families in the city, their empire stretching across finance, real estate, and politics. Only an heir would wear something like that. But how? Her mind raced, grappling with the impossible truth. Malik wasn't supposed to be anyone. He was a stranger she had found broken in an alley, a man with nothing, no family, no future. So why was he wearing something worth more than her entire neighborhood? Her voice trembled, a fragile whisper of disbelief. Who? Who are you, really? Malik's gaze hardened, a flicker of guardedness in his eyes. For a moment, he looked like he might lie, dismiss it all, retreat into his disguise. But then, his shoulders dropped, a heavy sigh escaping him, and his eyes softened as they met hers, a deep, knowing tenderness. "You deserve the truth," he said quietly, his voice laced with resignation. Before he could continue, another voice, authoritative and elegant, pierced the air. "Malik Harrington." Imani spun around. An elegant woman approached, her silver-streaked locks gleaming under the light, her long coat flowing behind her. She carried herself like royalty, every step deliberate, her presence commanding. Angela Harrington. Imani had seen her face before, on the news, in society magazines, a formidable philanthropist, a shrewd businesswoman, the woman known as the iron backbone of the Harrington family. Imani's knees weakened, the full weight of the truth crashing down on her. Angela's sharp eyes cut to Malik, a mixture of exasperation and concern. Your father is sick with worry, and here you are playing beggar in the streets. Do you think this is a game? Malik's jaw tightened. This isn't about him. It never was. Angela's gaze flicked to Imani, lingering, assessing, her knowing eyes piercing through Imani's composure. And who is this? Imani's chest constricted, heat flooding her face, her tongue tied. I helped him once. Angela's lips curved into a knowing smile, a hint of understanding in her gaze. Oh, I see. You're the girl. The girl? Imani whispered, confused, her heart pounding. But Angela said no more. Instead, she stepped closer to her nephew, her tone urgent. You can't keep hiding forever, Malik. Your enemies are circling. The board is restless. If you keep this up, they'll destroy Harrington Holdings. I don't care about Harrington Holdings, Malik snapped, his voice rougher than Imani had ever heard it, stripped of its usual composure. I care about the truth, about who I can trust. His eyes returned to Imani, piercing, searching her face as though she were the answer to a question only he knew, a silent plea for understanding. Imani staggered back, shaking her head, a whirlwind of disbelief and confusion swirling within her. No, this doesn't make sense. You're supposed to be... Her voice cracked, betraying her profound shock. I thought you were just a man who needed saving. Malik's eyes softened, a deep sadness intermingling with his resolve. And I was, but I'm also more than that. I'm the heir to Harrington Holdings, and now you know my secret. Her chest heaved, her thoughts a blur, a chaotic storm of emotions. She wanted to scream, to cry, to run. The shame of what she had done to save him surged through her, twisting like a blade, a poison spreading through her veins. A billionaire heir. That's who she had sacrificed everything for, and he didn't even know. The irony, the crushing weight of it, was unbearable. Angela stepped closer, her eyes sharp, a warning in her voice. Careful with this one, Malik. Secrets like hers don't stay buried forever. Imani's heart stopped, a sudden terrifying plunge into dread. What? Angela's gaze lingered on her knowingly, though she said nothing more, her silence more damning than any accusation. Malik's hand brushed Imani's shoulder, gentle yet desperate, a silent plea. Please don't tell anyone. Not yet. If my enemies find out where I've been, who I've been with, you'll be in danger. Her breath shook, a fragile gasp. Danger, Malik? I'm already in danger. My own family. Tyrone. She broke off, her throat tightening, the fear of her stepbrother's escalating obsession chilling her to the bone. Malik's expression darkened, his jaw firm, a fierce resolve hardening his features. Then I'll protect you. From Tyrone, from Veronica, from anyone who tries to hurt you. Imani's heart twisted. His words felt like a promise, a powerful shield, but promises were dangerous. She had already lost too much, sacrificed too deeply. Still, as his hand lingered against hers, a warmth radiating through her, she couldn't stop the way her pulse quickened, the way her soul felt pulled toward him, like an undeniable gravitational force. That night, as she lay awake in her small bed, staring at the ceiling, the quiet hum of the city outside a stark contrast to the tumult within, Imani whispered into the dark, her voice choked with unshed tears. He's not who I thought he was." Tears slid down her cheeks, dampening her pillow. "And if he finds out who I really am, he'll never forgive me." This raw confession encapsulates Imani's profound internal conflict. The love she feels for Malik, the gratitude for his protection, warring with the crushing weight of her secret and the fear of his inevitable judgment. Imani Carter's hands shook as she washed dishes in the cramped kitchen sink. The night before replayed endlessly in her mind. Malik's fierce protection, the unmistakable glint of his expensive watch, Angela Harrington's sharp voice calling him heir. The pieces had clicked into place, forming a picture she never could have imagined. He wasn't a stranger. He wasn't homeless. He wasn't the man she thought she'd sacrificed everything for. He was Malik Harrington, billionaire heir to an empire that could buy and sell everything in her world 1,000 times over. And now she knew. The revelation was not merely about his identity. It was about the colossal chasm between their worlds and the terrifying irony of her sacrifice. But worse, if he ever learned what she had done for him, the shame would crush her, utterly annihilate the fragile sense of self she had tried so hard to rebuild. It wasn't just about his judgment. It was about her own profound sense of degradation. Veronica's voice cut through the air like glass, shattering her contemplation. "Janelle, Tyrone, come here. You need to see this." Imani stiffened, wiping her hands, her heart sinking. Veronica was sprawled across the living room sofa, her silk robe shimmering, phone in hand, a predatory gleam in her eyes. Janelle leaned over her shoulder, her eyes widening at the screen. "Wait, is that—" Janelle gasped, a dawning realization on her face. Veronica's red-painted lips curled into a slow, wicked smile, a harbinger of malice. "Oh yes, Malik Harrington, billionaire, heir to Harrington Holdings. And guess who I saw him with last night?" Janelle's eyes gleamed with a mix of shock and avarice. "Imani!" Veronica nodded, her voice dripping with venom. "Our little maid has been hiding a secret. She's caught the eye of the richest man in the city." Tyrone's fists clenched from the corner, his possessive rage boiling over. "He's mine to deal with." Veronica ignored him, her mind already scheming, calculating. This is our chance. If Janelle plays her cards right, she'll be Mrs. Harrington before the year is out. And Imani— Veronica's voice hardened, chillingly cruel. "Will be nothing more than a stepping stone we bury under our heels." This scene vividly portrays the Carter family's unbridled greed and their readiness to exploit Imani for their own social and financial gain. The revelation of Malik's identity transforms Imani from a burden into a pawn in their ruthless schemes. The next afternoon, Malik found Imani sitting alone on the bench behind the soup kitchen, her books in her lap, a quiet island of introspection. "I looked for you inside," he said softly, lowering himself beside her, his presence a warm anchor. Imani didn't meet his gaze, unable to face the man whose true identity had complicated everything. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, her voice trembling. His brow furrowed, a shadow of hurt crossing his face. "Why?" "Because you lied to me," she whispered, her voice cracking, betraying the pain of perceived betrayal. "You let me think you were no one. You let me—" Her words broke, shame choking her throat, the unspoken accusation hanging heavy in the air. Malik's jaw tightened, a mix of regret and defensiveness in his eyes. "I never wanted to deceive you. I just needed to know if anyone could see me for who I was, not for my name. And you? You did." His words, while earnest, still stung with the residue of his deception. Imani finally looked up, her brown eyes shimmering with tears, raw and exposed. "But you don't understand. You don't know what it cost me to save you." His hand reached for hers, warm, steady, an offer of solace and shared burden. "Then tell me. Whatever it is, I'll bear it." She pulled away, shaking her head violently, the words catching in her throat. "No. If you knew, you'd never look at me the same." Silence stretched between them, heavy with all the things left unsaid, all the truths she desperately wanted to share, but was terrified to reveal. The emotional weight of this conversation is immense, showcasing Imani's deep-seated shame and her fear that the truth will irrevocably alter Malik's perception of her. Malik's sincere offer to share her burden highlights his growing love and commitment. That evening, the Carter household launched their offensive. Veronica and Janelle stormed into the soup kitchen, overdressed in designer heels and fur coats, a gaudy display of their superficiality. Heads turned as they strutted inside, Janelle's eyes locking on Malik instantly, a predatory glint in them. "There you are," Veronica said sweetly, her voice dripping with false warmth, a thinly veiled pretense of civility. "Mr. Harrington, what a surprise. We had no idea you were indulging in charity work." Imani froze at the sound of his name on her stepmother's lips, knowing the game had begun. Malik stood slowly, his posture dignified, controlled, effortlessly commanding the room. "And who are you?" Veronica pressed a manicured hand against her chest, feigning offense. "Veronica Carter. This is my daughter, Janelle." Janelle stepped forward, flashing a radiant, practiced smile, radiating a false charm. "It's such an honor, Mr. Harrington. I've always admired men who use their power to help the less fortunate. You must be extraordinary." Malik's eyes flickered to Imani, then back to Janelle, a subtle acknowledgement of the comparison. "I do what I can." Imani's stomach twisted as she watched Janelle bat her lashes, touching Malik's arm as if she owned him already, a blatant display of possessiveness. Veronica leaned closer, her voice conspiratorial, laced with insidious judgment. "You deserve women who match your station, Mr. Harrington, not girls who belong in kitchens." Her cold eyes cut straight to Imani, a dismissive sneer. Imani's cheeks burned as humiliation seared through her, the familiar sting of being belittled. Malik's jaw clenched, his gaze hardening, his patience wearing thin. "That girl," he said firmly, his voice ringing with conviction, "has more worth in her heart than money could ever buy." The room went silent, a collective gasp. Veronica's smile faltered, but Janelle tightened her grip on his arm, masking her fury with a forced laugh. "Of course. Still, Mr. Harrington, we'd love to invite you to dinner, a proper setting with a proper family." Malik didn't answer, his eyes still locked on Imani, a silent testament to his unwavering gaze. This scene is a powerful demonstration of Malik's loyalty and his ability to see beyond superficial appearances, directly challenging the Carter women's classism and cruelty. Later, as they walked home, Imani's silence cut deeper than any words. Malik finally broke it, his voice gentle but insistent. "I don't care about your stepmother or your stepsister. I care about you." Imani stopped in the middle of the street, her voice breaking, raw with emotion. "But you don't know me, not really. You don't know the things I've done, the shame I carry." He stepped closer, his voice low, steady, filled with unwavering determination. "Then let me know. Let me carry it with you." Her tears spilled over, uncontrollable, and she shook her head violently. "No, if you knew the truth, you would never forgive me." She turned and ran before he could stop her, her sobs echoing in the night, the weight of her secret too heavy to bear. This heartbreaking exchange reveals the depth of Imani's fear and shame, highlighting her conviction that her past is unforgivable. Malik's steadfast love and his willingness to share her burden are profound, but Imani's trauma prevents her from accepting his offer. Inside the Carter house, Tyrone stood in his room, his mind burning with rage. He had seen it, the way Malik looked at Imani, the way she looked back. "She's mine," he hissed to himself, pacing like a caged animal. "Always mine." He yanked open his drawer, pulling out a crumpled envelope, a copy of Imani's hospital bill. one he had stolen weeks ago when snooping through her things. And there, in black and white, was proof of her secret, the mysterious payment, the surgery that saved a nameless man. Tyrone's lips curled into a vicious, triumphant smile. "Oh, Imani," he whispered darkly, his voice dripping with malice. "You thought you could hide from me, but soon Malik will know exactly what kind of girl you are." His words are a chilling promise of betrayal, an indication of his ultimate weapon. Imani lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, clutching her pillow as tears soaked the fabric. She had lost control of her life. Malik's truth had shattered her fragile sense of security. Veronica and Janelle's schemes loomed like storm clouds, dark and menacing, and Tyrone's eyes followed her everywhere, dark with obsession, a suffocating presence. Her chest ached as she whispered into the dark, "God, how much more can I take?" But the night offered no answer, only the quiet promise of betrayal waiting just beyond the dawn, an inevitable, crushing blow. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, their crystal drops scattering light across elegant gowns and tailored tuxedos. Every elite family in the city was present, and the air buzzed with anticipation. On stage, cameras flashed, reporters leaned forward eagerly, and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Malik Harrington, heir to one of the most powerful fortunes in America, had announced that tonight he would reveal his plans for marriage. This event is the pinnacle of high society, a spectacle designed to consolidate power and status, making Malik's ultimate choice all the more impactful. Imani Carter stood hidden at the back, her thrift store dress clashing jarringly with the opulent sea of designer silk. She wasn't supposed to be there. Veronica had dragged her along to carry Janelle's train, to serve as a silent shadow while her stepsister preened for the cameras. "Smile, darling," Veronica whispered to Janelle, adjusting her wig, a grotesque puppeteer. "Tonight is your night. He'll choose you." Janelle smirked, her lips glossed to perfection, her confidence bordering on arrogance. "Of course he will. A Harrington deserves a Harrington-worthy wife, not some nobody." Her eyes flicked back toward Imani, a dismissive sneer. Imani clenched her hands, her heart pounding with a mix of dread and a faint, desperate hope. She told herself she didn't care. She told herself Malik's world was not her own. But deep inside, fear twisted with something dangerous, something she dared not name, because if Malik spoke her name tonight, everything would change, irrevocably. The crowd erupted as Malik stepped forward, a figure of commanding presence. He was regal in his tailored black suit, his mahogany skin glowing under the chandeliers, his mere presence silencing the room before he even spoke. "Good evening," he began, his voice deep, steady, resonating with conviction. "For years, I've lived behind a name, behind wealth, behind power. But wealth means nothing without truth, and tonight I will make a choice, not just for myself, but for my future, for my family, and for the empire I will one day lead." Cameras clicked furiously, capturing every moment. Veronica held her breath, her eyes gleaming with avarice. Janelle straightened her gown, already rehearsing her victory smile, certain of her impending triumph. Imani's chest tightened, her eyes locked on him, a silent plea for clarity. "I have searched for a woman of integrity," Malik continued, his gaze sweeping the room, his voice unwavering. "A woman whose heart is pure, whose courage outshines gold, and I have found her." The room stilled, a collective hush falling over the elite. Veronica nudged Janelle, who lifted her chin proudly, a smug certainty on her face. "He means me," she whispered, a triumphant smirk. But then Malik's gaze swept the room, past the glittering gowns, past the expectant smiles, past the powerful figures, and landed unequivocally on Imani, holding her captive with the intensity of his eyes. His voice was unwavering, clear, ringing through the vast hall. Imani Carter. The ballroom gasped as one, a collective ripple of shock and disbelief. Imani's knees buckled, her breath catching in her throat, the world spinning around her. Veronica's face drained of color, her triumphant smile dissolving into a mask of horror. Janelle's jaw dropped in utter disbelief, her dreams shattering before her eyes. Malik extended his hand, a gesture of profound invitation. "Come stand with me." Imani shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes, overwhelmed by the enormity of the moment. "No, I can't." "Yes, you can," Malik said firmly, his voice carrying across the room, unwavering in its conviction. "Because you are the woman I choose." Every eye turned to her, the weight of judgment pressing down. She heard whispers like daggers. "Her? The maid? She doesn't belong here." Janelle's face twisted with unbridled fury as she shoved past Imani, her composure completely shattered. "This is a joke!" she screamed, her voice shrill with rage. "You can't possibly choose her over me. She's nothing. She doesn't deserve to breathe the same air as us." "Enough!" Malik's voice cut through the noise like a blade, silencing the room once more. His dark eyes burned as he stepped forward, a formidable presence. "Respect her, or you will respect no one." The silence was deafening, a testament to his authority. Imani trembled as Malik's hand closed gently yet firmly around hers, pulling her onto the stage. Cameras flashed, blinding her, a dizzying array of light. The warmth of his grip steadied her shaking legs, a physical anchor in the storm of public scrutiny. But her heart pounded with shame, because deep inside, she knew if the truth ever came out, if Malik learned what she had given up to save his life, he would never look at her the same. Veronica's fury boiled over. She plastered on a forced smile for the cameras, a grotesque mask of civility, but her grip on Janelle's arm was iron digging into her flesh. "We won't let her win," she hissed under her breath, her voice thick with venom. "Not now, not ever." Janelle's nails dug into her palms as she forced back tears, her humiliation turning into a vengeful resolve. "He embarrassed me in front of everyone. I'll destroy her." Veronica's eyes narrowed, her voice low, dripping with menace. "Then we start tonight. If Malik Harrington thinks he can elevate a servant into high society, he has no idea who he's dealing with." After the announcement, Malik gently guided Imani into a private corridor, away from the blinding, flashing lights, a sanctuary from the chaos. She pulled her hand free, tears slipping uncontrollably down her cheeks. "Why did you do this?" she whispered, her voice breaking, overwhelmed and confused. "Because it's the truth," Malik said softly, his eyes filled with an undeniable love. "I love you." Her heart stopped, suspended in a moment of pure, terrifying vulnerability. The words were everything she'd ever wanted and everything she feared. "No," she said, shaking her head violently, dismissing his confession. "You don't love me. You love the idea of me. If you knew what I really was, you'd hate me." He stepped closer, his hand cupping her cheek, his eyes fierce, unwavering in their conviction. "Then tell me what it is you think is so unforgivable, because I swear nothing could change how I see you." She turned away, sobbing silently, unable to articulate the depth of her shame, the indelible mark on her soul. She couldn't. Not now. Not ever. Malik's arms fell to his sides, frustration shadowing his features, a profound weariness in his stance. He wanted to shake the truth out of her, to tear down the walls she had built around her heart, but the raw pain in her eyes stopped him. Instead, he whispered, a desperate plea. "Then let me prove it to you. Let me prove that my love is stronger than whatever you're hiding." But across the hall, lurking in the shadows, Tyrone watched, a cruel smile tugging at his lips. He had seen it all. Malik's passionate declaration, Imani's trembling, her profound shame. And in his hand, folded neatly, was the hospital bill he had stolen, the undeniable proof of Imani's darkest secret. "Oh, little sister," he whispered, his voice oozing with malicious glee. "You think he loves you now, but once he knows what you've done, he'll throw you away like trash, and then you'll have no one except me." Back at the Carter house, Veronica slammed her purse onto the table, her face contorted with rage. "How dare he humiliate us like this?" she screamed, pacing the floor like a predator. "Choosing her over my daughter in front of the entire city." Janelle, her face streaked with tears, echoed her mother's fury. "He was supposed to be mine." "He will be yours," Veronica spat, her eyes glinting with a dangerous resolve. "Because Imani doesn't belong in his world, and soon she'll be out of it." Her voice dropped into a chilling hiss. "By the time I'm finished, Malik Harrington will regret ever speaking her name." Imani sat alone in her room that night, staring at her reflection in the cracked mirror, a metaphor for her fragmented self. She touched her lips where his words still lingered. "I love you." She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe in miracles. But deep down, she knew the harsh truth. Secrets didn't stay buried forever. And when Malik learned hers, love would not be enough to save her. The Harrington estate glittered under the night sky, its grand windows glowing with light, a beacon of celebration. Inside, reporters were still buzzing about Malik's shocking announcement. The billionaire heir had chosen Imani Carter, a poor girl mocked by her own family, as his bride-to-be. But while the world gossiped, Imani's steps at the edge of the estate garden were heavy, each breath sharp with fear. Malik's declaration had set the city ablaze, but instead of feeling joy, she carried dread like a chain around her neck. Because Tyrone knew, and Tyrone never stayed quiet for long. She didn't have to wait long for the storm to break. That evening, as she walked home from the Harrington estate, a hand yanked her violently into the shadows of a narrow alley. "Gotcha!" Tyrone's smirk glinted in the dim streetlight, his dark eyes blazing with cruel triumph, a predator seizing his prey. He shoved a folded envelope into her chest. Imani gasped. It was the hospital bill. Her hospital bill. The night she saved Malik. Her blood ran cold, a terrifying realization. "Where did you get this?" Tyrone leaned close, his breath hot against her ear, a repulsive invasion of her personal space. "I've always known you were hiding something, and here it is, spelled out in black and white. You gave yourself away, little sister. The whole world thinks you're innocent, but I know the truth." Her knees weakened, threatening to buckle beneath her. "Tyrone, please." "Oh, I'll keep your dirty little secret," he sneered, his voice laced with menace. "But only if you give me what I want." Her voice trembled, barely a whisper. "And what do you want?" His grin widened, a feral, chilling smile. "Simple. Leave Malik. End this little fairy tale before it begins, because if you don't, I'll tell him everything. And when I do," he chuckled darkly, a sound that sent shivers down her spine, "he'll see you for the fraud you are, a desperate girl who sold herself for a stranger's life." Imani staggered back, clutching the bill to her chest, her mind spinning with unadulterated panic. If Malik knew, if he ever learned the unimaginable price she had paid to save him, his love would turn to ashes, crumble into dust. "Tyrone, you can't," she began, her voice desperate. But he cut her off with a hiss. "I can and I will. Don't test me, Imani. You've got until the end of the week. End things with Malik or I'll end them for you." Then he vanished into the night, leaving her trembling, broken, the incriminating paper shaking in her hands, a testament to her utter despair. The next day, Malik appeared at the soup kitchen, his tall frame filling the doorway. His eyes lit up the moment they found hers, a beacon of hope she was now terrified to approach. "Imani," he said warmly, stepping toward her. But she turned away, her chest heaving, his presence filling her with both warmth and terror all at once. "You've been distant since the announcement," he said gently, his brows furrowing with concern. "Talk to me. Tell me what's wrong." She forced a shaky smile, her voice flat, devoid of emotion, a desperate attempt to create distance. "Nothing's wrong." "Don't lie to me." His hand brushed her arm, tender, insistent, seeking connection. "I see it in your eyes. You're carrying something heavy. Please, let me share it." Her throat tightened, a lump of unspoken truths. She wanted to collapse into his arms, to confess everything, to beg him to still love her. But Tyrone's threat echoed in her head like poison, paralyzing her. I just need space," she whispered, pulling away, her resolve fracturing. "Maybe we rush things. Maybe this isn't right." Pain flickered in his gaze, a wound from her rejection. But Malik didn't let go, his grip firm. "Imani, look at me. I chose you. Out of everyone, I chose you, and nothing will change that." Her tears spilled over, uncontrollable, but she tore her hand from his and fled into the kitchen, her sobs muffled by the clang of dishes, a desperate escape from a truth she couldn't share. Malik stood frozen, frustration burning in his chest, a profound sense of helplessness washing over him. He didn't know what secret she carried, but he vowed then and there he would uncover it, and he would not let her slip away. Meanwhile, Veronica's schemes deepened, their malice growing with each passing day. She and Janelle sat in the parlor, champagne glasses in hand, reveling in their vindictive plotting. "Did you see the way Malik looked at her?" Janelle spat, her voice trembling with rage, the memory of her public humiliation still fresh. "Like she was some queen, while I was humiliated in front of everyone." Veronica sipped her drink, her eyes sharp, calculating. "Then we'll humiliate her in return. Men like Malik don't stay loyal when their women are dragged through the mud. We just need the right dirt." Janelle frowned, a flicker of doubt in her eyes. "But what if there isn't any?" Veronica's smirk curved like a knife, chillingly confident. "Oh, sweetheart, every girl has secrets, and I guarantee Imani Carter's are filthy." As if on cue, Tyrone stepped in, tossing the hospital bill onto the table, his eyes glinting with malicious triumph. "Already found them," he sneered. Janelle's eyes widened as she snatched it up, her fingers trembling with excitement. "What is this?" "Proof," Tyrone said darkly. "She isn't pure. She isn't innocent. And when Malik sees this, she'll be finished." Veronica's laughter filled the room like thunder, a chilling symphony of pure evil. "Then let's make sure he does." Days later, Malik, still determined to break through Imani's guardedness, planned a romantic dinner for her at a quiet rooftop restaurant overlooking the city skyline. Candles flickered, violins played soft melodies, and he held her hand across the table, his touch a comforting presence. "You don't have to be afraid anymore," he told her gently, his eyes filled with sincerity. "I know your stepmother treats you cruelly. I know your brother is dangerous, but you're safe with me. I'll protect you from all of them." Imani's chest ached. She wanted desperately to believe him. His eyes were full of sincerity, his touch warm and steady, a powerful antidote to her fears. But Tyrone's voice echoed in her mind, a venomous whisper. "Leave him or he'll know everything." She forced a smile, hiding her tears behind a brave facade. "I don't deserve you, Malik." His grip tightened, a silent affirmation. "Yes, you do, and one day I'll prove to you just how much." Back at the Carter house, Tyrone seethed. Imani hadn't obeyed. She hadn't left Malik. "You think you're clever," he muttered to himself, pacing his room like a caged beast. "But time's up." He pulled out his phone, snapping a picture of the hospital bill, his lips curved into a twisted, malicious grin. "Let's see how perfect Malik thinks you are when he learns the truth." That night, Imani knelt at her bedside, tears soaking her pillow, her body trembling with fear. She whispered into the dark, her voice raw with desperation. "God, please don't let him find out. Not like this. Not from Tyrone." But as she prayed, she didn't know Tyrone's message was already on its way, a cruel trap about to shatter her fragile world. The whispers spread like wildfire. By morning, the city's tabloids had already printed the headline, screaming its insidious accusation, "Harrington's bride-to-be not so innocent after all." The article was filled with venom, swirling rumors of a poor girl who had sold herself at a hospital, speculation that Malik Harrington had been deceived by a schemer, a gold digger. Though no names were listed, everyone knew exactly who the story pointed to: Imani Carter. At the soup kitchen that day, Imani felt the stares, like physical blows. Conversations halted when she passed. Mothers pulled their children closer, shielding them from her perceived contamination. Volunteers exchanged glances, their faces a mixture of judgment and pity. And one woman sneered under her breath, her words a bitter poison. "There's the girl who trapped him." Imani's hands shook as she set down a tray. Heat burned her cheeks, and her vision blurred with unshed tears. They know. They all know. The public shaming, orchestrated by her step-family, was a brutal blow, validating her deepest fears and confirming her belief that the truth would only bring condemnation. By evening, Malik stormed into the Carter house, his broad frame filling the doorway. His eyes blazed with fury, his jaw sharp with tension, a palpable sense of betrayal emanating from him. "Imani!" His voice thundered through the small living room, shaking the very foundations of her precarious existence. She hurried down the stairs, heart hammering against her ribs, a terrifying premonition gripping her. "Malik, what's wrong?" He held up his phone, the damning article glowing on the screen, its words twisting into accusations. "What is this? You told me there was nothing, no secret too big for us to overcome." Malik's voice broke, heavy with betrayal, laced with a pain that cut deep. "But this..." He shoved the screen toward her, forcing her to confront the public display of her deepest shame. "Is it true?" Tears spilled down her cheeks, blurring his furious face. "Malik, Answer me." His voice cracked like a whip, demanding an unequivocal truth. "Did you give yourself away to save me? Was I nothing more than a bargain to you?" Her chest caved in, the shame she had carried in silence for so long, the sacrifice she had made in desperate, selfless love, all twisted into poison by his words, misinterpreted as a calculated transaction. "I didn't do it for money," she whispered, choking on her tears, the words barely audible. "I did it to save your life." Malik staggered back as if she'd struck him, his fists curled at his sides, his face contorted in a mask of pain and incomprehension. "You should have told me." His voice shook with a raw mixture of rage and hurt. "You let me fall in love with a lie." "No," she cried, reaching for him, desperate to explain, to bridge the chasm that had suddenly opened between them. But he pulled away, unable to reconcile the image of the woman he loved with the devastating truth he had just discovered. Behind them, Veronica's lips curved into a satisfied smile as she descended the stairs with Janelle in tow, their faces gleaming with wicked triumph. "Don't waste your time on her, Mr. Harrington," Veronica purred, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "She's been nothing but a disgrace since the day she came into my home. But my daughter, Janelle, she's worthy of you." Janelle stepped forward, feigning sorrow, her performance carefully crafted. "Malik, you deserve someone honest, someone who understands your world. I could be that for you." Malik's jaw tightened, his chest heaving, torn between the raw pain of betrayal and the insidious machinations unfolding before him. He glanced at Imani, her face streaked with tears, a picture of profound anguish, then turned away, fury clouding his gaze. The betrayal, in this moment, was too great, too raw to process. That night, Janelle found him at a private bar downtown, a sleek, shadowy establishment where the city's elite drowned their sorrows. She slid into the booth beside him, her perfume thick in the air, a cloying scent of ambition, her hand brushing his arm in a calculated gesture of intimacy. "She humiliated you, Malik," Janelle whispered, her voice smooth as silk, a dangerous siren song. "And she'll keep humiliating you, but I wouldn't. I'd stand by your side. Together, we'd be unstoppable." Malik downed his drink, his eyes distant, lost in a fog of pain and confusion. "I don't need unstoppable," he muttered, his voice hoarse with disillusionment. "I needed the truth." Janelle leaned closer, her lips almost grazing his ear, her words a venomous balm. "Then let me give it to you. The truth is, you deserve better, and I can be that for you." For a fleeting moment, Malik allowed her presence, the distraction dulling the ache inside him, the numbness offering a temporary respite. But deep in his chest, his heart still beat, a fractured rhythm for only one woman. Back at the Carter house, Veronica and Tyrone reveled in their perceived victory, their laughter echoing through the halls. "You see," Veronica cackled, swirling her glass of wine, her face flushed with triumph. "He's furious with her. Soon Janelle will replace her at his side, and all of this will be ours." Janelle smiled, a thin, cruel line. But Tyrone's expression was darker, a smoldering intensity in his eyes. "He may be angry," Tyrone muttered, his voice low, "but his eyes still follow her. He still wants her." "Then we'll make him forget," Veronica said coldly, her voice devoid of human emotion. "And if Imani dares to fight, we'll bury her with her own shame, make sure she never rises again." Imani fled into the night, her tears blurring the city lights into streaks of painful color. She stumbled into the small, unassuming church on the corner, collapsing into the front pew, her body racked with sobs. "God," she sobbed, her voice raw, broken, stripped bare of all pretense. "Why do you let them win? Why must I always be the one humiliated, the one broken? All I ever wanted was to do the right thing. All I ever wanted was to save him. And now he hates me." The silence pressed heavy against her chest, a suffocating weight. But in the shadows, a voice broke through, soft yet resonant with wisdom. "You saved him because you are good," Angela Harrington said softly, stepping forward, her silver-streaked locks gleaming in the candlelight, a vision of quiet strength. "Don't let shame destroy you, child. Shame is the weapon of the cruel. But truth—" Her eyes glinted with a fierce conviction. "Truth is a sword that cuts them down." Imani looked up, broken, her eyes wide with a fragile hope. "But he doesn't believe me. He thinks I deceived him." Angela's hand rested gently on her shoulder, a comforting, steadying touch. "He will see the truth in time. But for now, you must endure." Angela's intervention here is crucial, providing Imani with much-needed solace and a new perspective on her sacrifice, reframing it from shame to courage. Meanwhile, Malik sat alone in his penthouse, the sprawling city lights beneath him a dizzying blur, his chest aching with conflict, his mind replaying every word Imani had spoken. "I did it to save your life." Her tears haunted him, her trembling voice echoing in his head, a tormenting symphony of regret and confusion. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to hold her, to comfort her. But the bitter taste of betrayal gnawed at him, louder than the love in his heart. Was she a liar? Or was she the only person who had ever truly cared for him, seen past his name and wealth? His fist slammed against the table, a frustrated roar. He didn't know anymore. At the Carter house, Tyrone, emboldened by his perceived victory, cornered Imani in the hallway, his grin feral, his voice a low, triumphant hiss. "See? I told you he hates you now, and soon you'll have no one left but me." Imani shoved past him, her eyes blazing with a fierce, newfound defiance. "I will never belong to you." Tyrone's smirk didn't fade. "We'll see, little sister. We'll see." Days later, Malik, still wrestling with his internal demons, attended a gala with Janelle at his side, a desperate attempt to numb the pain. Cameras flashed as they arrived together, a picture of superficial perfection. Veronica beaming like a queen, reveling in her momentary triumph. But behind the forced smiles, Malik's heart remained heavy, his eyes scanning the crowd for the one face he longed to see, the one woman who truly mattered. And across the street, in the shadows, Imani watched, her chest aching, but her resolve hardening. "If this is the price of my sacrifice," she thought, a quiet strength blooming within her, "then so be it. But one day, the truth will set me free." The night pressed heavy over the city, but Imani could feel no peace. She hadn't slept in days, her eyes swollen from tears, her body trembling under the crushing weight of shame. Malik had turned from her. The tabloids shredded her name, mocking her perceived innocence. Veronica paraded Janelle in front of him like a jewel, a prize stolen from her. But one thought burned brighter than her despair, a singular, defiant spark. The doctor, the man who had coerced her into sacrifice, the man who held her shame like a dagger at her throat. If Tyrone and Veronica had gotten the hospital bill, then somewhere there was more proof, more evidence of that dark night, and she had to destroy it before it destroyed her completely. Imani marched into the hospital late at night, her hood pulled low, a ghost in the fluorescent glare. The lights buzzed overhead as her footsteps echoed down the empty corridor, each step a testament to her desperate resolve. She stopped at the office door of Dr. Wallace Green, the very man who had forced her into the unthinkable bargain. The door was slightly ajar, a crack revealing a dimly lit interior. She pushed it open, her breath quickening, her heart pounding. "Doctor." Green looked up from his desk, his pale fingers curling around a tumbler of whiskey, his eyes narrowed, a predatory glint in them. "Well, well," he said smoothly, a chilling familiarity in his voice. "The Virgin Saint herself. Come back to sell me another piece of your purity?" Imani flinched, disgust swirling in her gut, a visceral reaction to his crude insinuation. "I came for the papers," she snapped, her voice trembling with barely contained fury. "The records, the bill, every trace of what you did. Give them to me." He chuckled darkly, leaning back in his chair, a smug satisfaction on his face. "Ah, so the rich boy found out, and now you're desperate to clean your name." He swirled the amber liquid in his glass, savoring her distress. "But why should I help you? That little deal paid my bills for months." Imani's fists clenched, her nails digging into her palms. "Because what you did was wrong. You exploited me. You threatened me. I was just trying to save a dying man's life." Dr. Green's smile twisted into pure cruelty, a venomous sneer. "And you think anyone will care? No one cares what happens to poor girls like you. You're nothing, Imani, a disposable body." Her eyes blazed with tears, a fierce fire ignited by his callous disregard, but her voice did not waver. "I may be poor, but I'm not disposable. You will not ruin me. Not anymore." She lunged forward, slamming her hands on his desk, the force rattling the whiskey glass. "Destroy the papers, Dr. Green, or I swear I'll expose you." For the first time, a flicker of unease, a hint of fear, crossed his face. But before he could respond, a slow, chilling clap echoed from the doorway. Tyrone leaned casually against the frame, his locks pulled back, a twisted grin on his face, a menacing shadow. "Beautiful," he drawled, his voice thick with a perverse admiration. "Absolutely beautiful, my sweet Imani, all fire and fury. Do you have any idea how much I crave you like this?" Imani whirled around, horror flashing across her face, her worst nightmare materialized. "Tyrone, what are you doing here?" He stepped into the room, his gaze locked on her like a predator watching its prey. "Following you, watching you, making sure no one hurts you, except me, of course." "Leave me alone," she hissed, her voice breaking, a desperate plea. But Tyrone only laughed, circling her like a hungry beast. "You think Malik loves you? He doesn't. He's ashamed of you. But me—" His voice dropped to a guttural growl, his eyes darkening with obsession. "I've wanted you from the moment you stepped into this house. Every glance, every smile you gave anyone else. It should have been mine." Imani's stomach churned, a profound revulsion gripping her. "You're my stepbrother." His eyes widened, a chilling intensity. "So, blood or no blood, you were meant to be mine. And now that Malik's gone, nothing stands in my way." Dr. Green smirked in the corner, watching the chaos unfold, thoroughly entertained. "This is getting interesting." Imani backed toward the door, her pulse racing, her heart a drumbeat of terror. "Stay away from me, Tyrone!" But he lunged, slamming his hand against the wall beside her head, trapping her. "No, Imani, stay with me, because if I can't have you—" His grin turned feral, terrifying. "Then no one will." The door suddenly slammed open. Malik stood there, his tall frame rigid, his eyes ablaze with fury, a formidable, avenging presence. His chest heaved as he took in the scene. Imani pressed against the wall, trapped. Tyrone towering over her, Dr. Green smirking in the corner. "What the hell is going on here?" Malik's voice thundered through the office, a raw, powerful roar. Imani gasped, her relief spilling over into desperate sobs. "Malik!" But Tyrone only smirked, emboldened by his perceived upper hand. "Perfect timing, brother-in-law. Come listen to the truth." "Truth?" Malik growled, stepping forward, his eyes narrowed, his fists clenched. "Yes," Tyrone sneered. He grabbed Imani's wrist, yanking her forward, exposing her. "Tell him, Imani. Tell him what you gave up to save his worthless life. Tell him how you sold yourself." Malik's eyes narrowed, his fists trembling at his sides, a vein throbbing in his temple. "Let her go." But Tyrone only tightened his grip, a cruel triumph in his eyes. "You think she's innocent? She's not. She's mine. She's always been mine." His eyes glittered with obsession, a dangerous madness. "She gave herself away for you, but it should have been me." Imani sobbed, wrenching free from his grasp, a desperate struggle for autonomy. "Stop it, Malik! It's not what he says!" Malik's chest heaved, torn between incandescent rage and profound despair. His voice shook, a raw, vulnerable tremor. "Imani, is it true?" Imani's world seemed to stop, the air sucked out of the room. This was the moment she had dreaded, the moment she prayed would never come. Her knees buckled as she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yes, it's true." Malik's eyes widened, pain slicing through them like a blade, a fresh wound. "But listen to me," she cried, stumbling toward him, desperate to explain, to salvage whatever fragile hope remained. "It wasn't what you think. I never wanted to. I never planned it. He was dying, Malik. You were dying. The doctor said he wouldn't operate unless I gave him something, and I gave him the only thing I had." Tears streamed down her face, her words breaking into gut-wrenching sobs, a raw, honest confession born of desperation and love. "I didn't do it for money. I didn't do it for gain. I did it because I couldn't let you die. Because even then, even before I knew who you were, I loved you." Silence filled the room, heavy with the weight of her words. Malik's breath came ragged, his eyes glistening, tears blurring his vision. The profound truth of her sacrifice crashed over him, raw and undeniable, shattering his initial anger, replacing it with a devastating comprehension. Dr. Green scoffed from behind his desk, breaking the solemnity. touching but still pathetic. She was mine before she was yours, Harrington. That was the final straw. With a roar that shook the room, Malik lunged across the office, his fist slamming into Dr. Green's jaw with brutal force. The doctor tumbled to the ground, blood spraying from his mouth. "Don't you ever speak about her again?" Malik snarled, towering over him, a primal protective rage radiating from him. "You preyed on her desperation, you disgusting coward. You used her shame to line your pockets, and now you'll pay." He turned to Tyrone, his eyes blazing with the same fury. "And you?" Tyrone raised his hands mockingly, a defiant smirk still on his bloodied face. "What? Going to hit your darling stepbrother?" Malik's fist connected with Tyrone's jaw before he could finish the taunt. Tyrone staggered back, spitting blood, but his grin never faded, a disturbing sign of his unhinged state. "You can hit me all you want," Tyrone growled, his voice thick with malicious triumph. "But it won't change the truth. She's tainted, and now the whole world knows it." Malik's chest heaved as he stepped between Tyrone and Imani, shielding her with his body, a formidable wall of protection. His voice thundered with unwavering conviction, ringing with absolute certainty. "She is not tainted. She is not broken. She is mine. And if the world dares to shame her, then let it shame me too, because I will stand with her until my last breath." Imani's sobs broke into gasps as she clung to him, her body trembling against his chest, finding solace in his fierce embrace. For the first time in weeks, she felt truly safe, truly seen, truly loved, not despite her sacrifice, but because of it. But Tyrone wasn't finished. He wiped the blood from his mouth, his grin twisted and unhinged, a portrait of pure malice. "You think you've won, Malik? You haven't. You can protect her from me, but you can't protect her from the world. They'll tear her apart. They'll spit on her name, and when they do, she'll come crawling back to me." Imani shuddered, but Malik only pulled her closer, his embrace tightening. "No, Tyrone," he said, his voice firm, unwavering. "She'll never crawl to you. Not now. Not ever." Police sirens wailed outside, their distant cry growing closer, summoned by the chaos. Dr. Green scrambled to his feet, his face pale with terror. Tyrone's grin faltered as flashing lights spilled into the room, marking the end of his rampage. Malik's arm tightened around Imani. "This ends tonight." The courthouse lobby was a storm of flashing cameras, reporters shouting questions, and security guards straining to push them back. Imani clutched Malik's arm as they stepped inside, her pulse racing, her heart a frantic drum. This was not just a hearing. This was the day everything would change. For Tyrone, for Veronica, and for her. "Don't let them rattle you," Malik whispered, his deep voice grounding her, a steadying force. His hand lingered at her back, firm, protective, a silent promise. "This is about truth, nothing else." She nodded, though her chest tightened, a knot of lingering fear. For so long she had lived under Veronica's cruelty, under Tyrone's oppressive shadow, always feeling smaller, weaker, voiceless. But now, the world was about to hear the truth. Not from Tyrone's twisted lies, not from Veronica's venom, but from Malik's unshakable determination and her own hard-won courage. When the heavy courtroom door swung open, the cacophony outside fell into a sudden, pregnant silence. Tyrone stood at the defendant's table, dressed in a suit too sharp for his own arrogance, smirking as if he still had the upper hand, an unrepentant villain. Veronica sat behind him, her jeweled fingers clutching a silk handkerchief, her face lifted proudly, as if she wasn't the mother of a man about to be dragged through scandal, a master of self-deception. Imani felt her skin crawl under Tyrone's gaze. He looked at her as if she still belonged to him, his dark eyes glinting with a terrifying obsession. When he licked his lips and winked, A shiver ran down her spine, and she pressed closer to Malik, seeking solace in his presence. Malik caught the gesture and his jaw clenched, a surge of protective fury. He leaned toward her. "Don't look at him. Look at me. He's already lost." The judge entered. All rose. The trial began. The prosecutor's voice rang clear as she laid out the charges: blackmail, harassment, theft from Harrington Holdings accounts, conspiracy with Dr. Green, and multiple counts of abuse. Gasps rippled through the spectators as damning documents flashed on the screen: bank transfers, hidden accounts, security footage of late-night exchanges, a meticulous unraveling of their web of deceit. Imani watched Tyrone shift uneasily, though his smirk never fully faded, his arrogance clinging to him like a shroud. Veronica leaned forward, whispering harshly in his ear, her hand squeezing his shoulder like a serpent tightening its coil, a desperate attempt to control the narrative. When Malik was called to the stand, the atmosphere thickened, charged with expectation. He walked with the commanding grace of a man who had nothing to hide, his broad shoulders squared, his voice steady, unflinching. He recounted everything: how Tyrone had harassed Imani, how he had cornered her in the hospital, how he had even confessed his twisted obsession in front of Malik himself. "Mr. Harrington," the prosecutor asked, "why bring this case to court when your family has the wealth and power to bury it quietly, away from public scrutiny?" Malik's gaze swept over the audience, landing briefly on Imani, his eyes softening with tenderness before hardening again with unwavering resolve. Because money doesn't erase evil. Tyrone Carter preyed on someone who could not defend herself. He used fear, shame, and lies to control her. And when he realized he couldn't have her, he tried to destroy her reputation, to strip her of her dignity. That is not just a family matter. That is a crime. The judge's gavel struck once, a sharp, authoritative sound to quiet the murmurs that rippled through the courtroom. Veronica shifted, her painted smile cracking at the edges, her composure beginning to unravel. Imani's heart swelled, a powerful surge of emotion. For years, she had endured Veronica calling her weak, insignificant, a burden. Yet here was Malik, a man of unimaginable power, telling the world that her suffering mattered, that she, Imani, truly mattered. It was a profound vindication, a moment of profound recognition. The defense tried to spin it, painting Tyrone as misunderstood, a victim of circumstance, even accusing Imani of manipulation, a desperate attempt to salvage his reputation. But then came the moment no one could refute, the undeniable truth that would shatter their carefully constructed lies. Dr. Green, called as a witness under subpoena, walked in pale and trembling, avoiding Malik's piercing eyes, a man terrified and exposed. Under relentless pressure, his facade cracked like glass, revealing the venality beneath. He admitted to the bargain, admitted to withholding life-saving treatment, admitted to shamelessly exploiting Imani's desperation. Gasps echoed through the courtroom, a collective outpouring of outrage. A woman in the gallery covered her mouth and wept, unable to bear the callousness of the revelation. Imani bowed her head, tears burning in her eyes, not of shame, but of sorrow for the trauma she had endured. The room knew. The world knew. Her secret, her deepest shame, was no longer hers to carry alone. But instead of laughter or condemnation, there was outrage, directed not at her, but at the men who had so cruelly used her. Tyrone exploded, his composure completely shattered. "She wanted it!" he shouted, slamming his hands on the table, his voice raw with unhinged rage. "She begged for me, too. She's been playing all of you, acting innocent while—" "Enough!" the judge barked, his voice sharp with authority, banging his gavel. But Malik had already surged forward, restrained only by his attorney's desperate grip. his face contorted with incandescent fury. His voice shook with pure rage. "Say another word about her and you'll regret it." The judge ordered order in the court, but the damage was done. Tyrone's mask of control had shattered, exposing the raw, ugly obsession beneath, his true, disturbing nature laid bare for all to see. When Imani herself was called to testify, her legs nearly gave way, trembling uncontrollably. But Malik rose, offering his hand, a solid, unwavering anchor. "I'll walk with you." She stood before the court, a fragile figure, her voice quivering but unbroken, imbued with a newfound strength. "I didn't ask for this life. I didn't ask to be used. All I ever wanted was to help others. That night, I thought I was saving a stranger. I didn't know he was Malik Harrington, heir to billions. I only knew he was dying, and I couldn't let him die. What was done to me, it was wrong. But I don't carry that shame anymore. It's not mine to carry. It belongs to the men who forced it on me." The silence was heavy, broken only by the judge's measured tone. "Thank you, Miss Carter. You may step down." As she returned to her seat, Malik's hand enclosed hers, a tender, reassuring grip. He whispered, his voice filled with profound admiration. "You are perfect. You are brave. I've never been prouder." Tyrone's verdict was swift and decisive. Guilty on multiple counts. He was ordered into custody immediately. As bailiffs approached, he twisted in rage, eyes locked on Imani, his face a mask of malevolent hatred. "This isn't over," he screamed as he was dragged out, his voice hoarse with fury. "You'll never be free of me. I'll haunt you until the day you die." The heavy doors slammed shut behind him, his threats echoing like distant thunder, a final chilling promise. Veronica rose, her face ashen, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. She rounded on Imani, venom dripping from every syllable. "This is your fault. You've ruined my son. You've ruined this family. You think you've won because Malik stands beside you. But mark my words, girl, I'll make you pay for this." Angela Harrington, regal and unshaken, stood from the gallery, her silver-streaked locks framing her stern face as she cut across the aisle, a figure of uncompromising justice. "No, Veronica, you ruined your own son. You taught him greed, cruelty, entitlement, and you tried to break this young woman because she had something you never will, purity of heart." The gallery erupted in murmurs as Veronica paled, her carefully controlled facade finally shattering. Angela turned to Imani and took her hand, her voice softening, a rare warmth in her gaze. "Child, don't let her words take root. Today you showed courage that some never find in a lifetime. Walk with your head high. This chapter of darkness is closing." As the court adjourned, Malik guided Imani through the throng of reporters, shielding her from their intrusive questions, his presence a comforting fortress. Outside, the evening air hit her face like the sweet breath of freedom. "Malik," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion, "it's over." He looked down at her, his eyes fierce yet gentle, filled with an unshakable love. "For him? Yes. For us? This is just the beginning." Imani's heart swelled, her tears falling freely now, tears of relief, of gratitude, of profound, unadulterated joy. She had endured shame, cruelty, and betrayal beyond measure. But at last, the scales of justice tipped in her favor. Tyrone was gone. Veronica's grip was weakening, her power eroding. And for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that love, true, untainted love, could genuinely be hers. But even in the glow of victory, shadows lingered. Veronica's eyes as she left the courtroom burned with promises of revenge. Janelle's absence that day was suspicious, her silence louder than words. Imani leaned into Malik's embrace, whispering, "Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." And he vowed softly in her ear, "Always." The day dawned with golden skies over the city, but for Imani Carter, the morning felt utterly unreal. She stood before the tall mirror in a quiet bridal suite, her reflection shimmering in ivory silk and delicate lace. The gown was a gift from Malik, flown in from Paris, its jeweled bodice catching the light like a constellation of stars. For a girl who had grown up wearing hand-me-downs, whose life had been marked by deprivation, it was almost too much to take in, a surreal dream. Her hands trembled as she adjusted the veil, a nervous flutter in her chest. Was this real? Could she truly be mere moments away from becoming Malik Harrington's wife, from stepping into a world she never imagined? Angela Harrington stepped into the room, her elegance radiating even in her simple navy dress. She carried herself like a queen, and her smile held a warmth that instantly steadied Imani's frayed nerves. "You look breathtaking," Angela whispered, touching Imani's cheek with genuine affection. "Malik won't be able to take his eyes off you." Imani swallowed hard, tears threatening to smudge her makeup, the emotional weight of the day pressing down on her. "I never imagined this for myself. Not after everything. Part of me feels like something will go wrong." Angela's gaze sharpened, sensing her fear. "That's fear speaking, child. You've endured fire and storm. Today you step into promise. Do not let anyone steal your joy." But outside those walls, dark forces continued to conspire. Veronica Carter, clad in a dress as dazzling as the bride's, stormed through the Harrington Estates reception hall, giving orders to bribed staff. Her lips curled into a cruel, triumphant smile as she pressed thick envelopes of cash into eager palms. "Make sure the cake collapses when it's cut," she hissed to one server, her eyes glinting with malice. "Switch the champagne for cheap substitutes. Make the Harringtons look like fools," she told another, savoring the thought of their humiliation. "And if anyone asks," her eyes narrowed dangerously, "you know nothing." She turned to Janelle, who was waiting with her own wicked surprise. Dressed in a white gown nearly identical to Imani's, her hair curled into glossy perfection, Janelle looked every inch the bride, a grotesque parody. "Remember," Veronica said, adjusting Janelle's veil, a final instruction in their twisted play, "when the time comes, you walk out. You claim him before she has a chance. The cameras will eat it up, and Malik will have no choice but to save face." Janelle smirked, her eyes sparkling with unbridled greed. "By the end of today, I'll be Mrs. Harrington, not her." The music began to swell, a majestic overture. Guests gathered in the opulent hall, chandeliers glittering, violins soaring, their melodious notes filling the air. Billionaires, politicians, celebrities, all had come to witness the union of Malik Harrington, the most eligible heir in the city, and the girl who had captured his heart against all odds. Imani's heart pounded as the grand doors opened. The sight of Malik waiting at the altar nearly stole her breath. He stood tall and regal in his tailored suit, broad shoulders squared, his eyes burning only for her, a singular, unwavering devotion. Every step down the aisle felt like a dream, a journey through a shimmering haze, until she reached him, and his strong hand enveloped hers, a tangible anchor. "You're perfect," Malik whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "And you're mine," she breathed back, the weight of the world dissolving in his tender gaze. The ceremony began, words of love and unity filling the air, weaving a tapestry of hope and promise. But just as the officiant declared, "If anyone objects to this union," the grand doors slammed open with a deafening crash. Gasps erupted through the hall as Janelle Carter strode in, her veil dramatically lifted, her gown gleaming, a ghostly, vengeful figure. "I object!" she shouted, her voice ringing through the hall, piercing the solemnity of the moment. "This marriage cannot happen because I am the true bride." Chaos exploded. Guests rose from their seats, murmurs rippling through the crowd like wildfire. Cameras flashed furiously, capturing the scandalous spectacle. Veronica swept in behind her daughter, feigning outrage, her performance meticulously orchestrated. "This is a disgrace," she cried, pointing dramatically at Imani. "That girl tricked Malek. She's unworthy. She shamed our family name. Malik belongs with Janelle." Imani's knees buckled, her vision blurring, her world threatening to crumble once more. She could hardly breathe as Janelle marched forward, standing boldly before Malik, her gown brushing against his shoes, a defiant challenge. "Marry me instead," Janelle demanded, her eyes locking onto his, desperate and avaricious. "I am your equal. I am worthy of the Harrington name. Don't throw yourself away on her." Imani's hands trembled in Malik's grasp, fear clawing at her chest. Would he falter? Would he let their lies, their cruel machinations win? But Malik's jaw tightened, his voice cutting through the uproar like a clap of thunder, resolute and unwavering. "Enough!" He stepped forward, shielding Imani with his broad frame, his glare burning into Janelle, a formidable wall of protection. "You are nothing to me," Janelle gasped, her face paling, utterly stunned by his raw rejection. But Malik, "You dare come here, dressed like a bride on the day meant for the woman I love?" His voice shook with barely contained fury, raw with indignation. "You and your mother have schemed, lied, and humiliated Imani at every turn. And still she stands with grace. She is the only woman I will ever call my wife." The hall erupted in thunderous applause, cheers rising, a chorus of support as Veronica's smirk finally faltered, her carefully constructed plan dissolving into ruin. But she wasn't done. Not yet. "You fool!" she spat, her voice thick with venom. "Do you know what you're marrying? Do you know the shame she carries? Everyone knows her secret now. She'll ruin you." Malik turned, his arm encircling Imani, pulling her close, a powerful gesture of unwavering love. His voice softened, but his words carried to every ear in the hushed hall, imbued with a profound conviction. "Yes, I know her past. I know her sacrifice, and I know her heart. That woman gave up everything to save my life. She is pure. She is loyal. She is mine. No amount of lies will ever change that." Tears streamed down Imani's cheeks, not of shame, but of profound gratitude and liberation. For the first time, her secret was not her prison. It was her strength, transformed by Malik's unconditional love. Malik had claimed her story, turned her shame into honor before the world, rewriting her narrative. Veronica's face twisted with pure rage, but Angela Harrington rose from her seat, her voice commanding the room, a force of undeniable authority. "Veronica Carter, your charade ends here." She held up a folder thick with documents, damning evidence of long-standing corruption. "You've not only schemed against this marriage, you've been stealing funds through fraudulent charities in your daughter's name. The evidence is here, and by tonight, the world will know." Gasps swept the hall as Veronica's face drained of color, her empire of lies collapsing around her. "You'll regret this, Angela," Veronica hissed, grabbing Janelle's hand, a desperate attempt to flee. But Janelle ripped her hand away, her voice cracking as she shouted, raw with her own humiliation. "You've ruined me, Mother. Everyone is laughing at me." She fled down the aisle in tears, her gown dragging behind her, a broken, disgraced figure, leaving Veronica standing alone, utterly humiliated before hundreds. The officiant cleared his throat nervously, the sudden silence deafening. "Shall we proceed?" Malik took Imani's trembling hands, his eyes never leaving hers, a promise of steadfastness. "Yes," he said firmly, his voice filled with unwavering certainty. "We shall." The vows resumed, simple yet profound. Through her tears, Imani repeated the words, her voice steady despite the storm that had just passed. Malik's deep, rich tone followed, sealing their promise, a bond forged in adversity. When the officiant finally declared, "You may kiss the bride," Malik wasted no time. He cupped her face, pressing his lips to hers with a passion that silenced every whisper, every doubt, every cruel scheme. The applause was thunderous, but all Imani felt was the warmth of his embrace, the undeniable truth in his kiss. She was his, he was hers. Their love, tested by fire, emerged stronger, unyielding. As the newlyweds walked down the aisle hand in hand, Angela met Imani's eyes with a proud smile, a silent acknowledgement of her victory. "The storm is passing, child, but beware. Storms have aftershocks." And in the shadows of the hall, Veronica lingered, her eyes burning with venom, a dark promise of revenge, her vow unbroken. The Harrington estate glowed with laughter and music that night, a symphony of celebration. The ballroom overflowed with guests raising glasses to the new Mr. and Mrs. Harrington, their joy infectious. Yet in a quiet corner of the mansion, Veronica Carter sat frozen in disbelief. Her carefully crafted empire, her beauty, her wealth, her elaborate schemes, was unraveling before her very eyes. Angela Harrington's words still echoed in her mind, cutting deeper than any blade. "Your fraud will be exposed by tonight." And exposed it was. Before the reception had even begun, headlines flashed across every news outlet, digital and print alike. Reporters outside the gates screamed questions into their microphones. Veronica Carter accused of embezzlement. Charity scam linked to Harrington wedding guest. Fraud and scandal rock the Carter family. Inside, Malik and Imani danced to soft jazz, their smiles radiant, their faces glowing with an ethereal joy. For Imani, it was her first time feeling the true freedom of joy, untainted by the fear and shame that had lurked at the edges of her life for so long. Malik's strong arm wrapped around her waist, his forehead pressed to hers as if shielding her from the entire world, a protective embrace. "You're glowing," he murmured, his voice husky with adoration. "It feels like the first time I've truly lived," she whispered back, her tears mingling with her laughter, tears of pure happiness. "I never thought I'd be standing here as your wife. And yet here you are," he said, kissing her knuckles tenderly, "exactly where you belong." While they swayed together, Veronica stormed toward the exit, her face contorted with rage and humiliation. Janelle trailed behind like a ghost, her once proud posture broken, her mascara streaked across her painted face, a picture of utter despair. She had been humiliated in front of the city's elite, rejected publicly, stripped of the illusion that she could win Malik's love. "Come on, Janelle," Veronica snapped, her voice sharp with desperation. "We still have power. We still have friends." But Janelle ripped her hand free, her voice raw with grief and resentment. "No, Mother, you've destroyed me. Everyone saw me begging at that altar like a fool. Malik hates me. The Harringtons despise me, and the whole city is laughing. I can't even show my face again." Veronica's voice rose sharp as glass, cutting through the music. "You're my daughter. You'll rise again." Janelle's sobs shook her entire body, a profound tremor of brokenness. "No, you only ever cared about what I could get for you. You never cared about me." With that, she fled through the side doors, a defeated figure, leaving Veronica standing alone, isolated and disgraced. For the first time in decades, Veronica felt a chill she couldn't shake, the chill of abandonment. Angela Harrington approached, her silver-streaked locks gleaming under the chandeliers, a formidable presence of justice. She carried an envelope in her hand, one she had kept close all evening, the final nail in Veronica's coffin. "It's over, Veronica," Angela said calmly, her voice firm, delivering the death blow to her rival's schemes. She handed the envelope to the waiting investigators who had entered discreetly. "You've stolen millions from charities meant to help children. You've laundered money through shell accounts. Your days of luxury are finished." "You witch!" Veronica spat, her face twisting with unbridled fury. "You always envied me, my beauty, my influence." Angela's laughter was low, dignified, laced with a quiet triumph. "No, dear, I pitied you. You built your life on vanity and greed, and now it's crumbling." Security escorted Veronica out as gasps rippled through the crowd, whispers fluttering like wings. Veronica Carter, once the queen of her social circle, was dragged away, disgraced, her jewels flashing under the harsh lights one final time, a symbol of her spectacular downfall. Imani, though overwhelmed by the rapid turn of events, could not help but feel the profound weight of justice settling. Veronica had tormented her for years, belittled her at every turn, tried to destroy her happiness. Now, for the first time, Imani felt that dark chapter closing, a heavy door shutting on a painful past. Later that night, she and Malik escaped to the balcony overlooking the estate gardens. The air was cool, the stars stretching endless above them, a vast, comforting expanse. Malik wrapped his jacket over her bare shoulders, his eyes drinking her in with tenderness, a profound admiration in his gaze. "Do you know how proud I am of you?" he asked softly, his voice thick with emotion. Imani shook her head, smiling faintly, still processing the enormity of her journey. "It was you who stood for me, Malik. You who made me feel worthy when the whole world wanted me to believe I wasn't." "No," he countered firmly, his voice unwavering. "It was you who endured. You who showed strength when anyone else would have broken. You are the bravest woman I've ever known, Imani Carter Harrington." He lingered on her new name, savoring it, a declaration of ownership and love. She blushed, leaning into him, a profound sense of belonging washing over her. "I like the sound of that." Their lips met under the starlight, the kiss deep and certain. For once there was no fear of interruption, no threat looming, just love. Raw, unshakable, eternal. The next morning, the aftermath of Veronica's downfall shook the city. News anchors replayed footage of her being escorted away, while analysts discussed the collapse of her fraudulent charities, her carefully constructed facade crumbling publicly. Banks froze her accounts. Properties were seized. By noon, she had lost her house, her cars, and every shred of her once formidable reputation. Janelle vanished from the spotlight entirely, her social media deleted, her fair-weather friends abandoning her one by one. Rumors spread that she had fled the city, too humiliated to remain, or perhaps that she lived in shame under a new name. Meanwhile, the Harrington name rose even higher. Malik's unwavering decision to marry Imani, despite every scandal and malicious scheme, became a powerful symbol of loyalty, integrity, and true love. Newspapers splashed their wedding photo across the front page, the headline proclaiming, "Heir marries woman who saved his life." Editorials praised Imani's resilience, painting her as a heroine who had endured unimaginable cruelty, but emerged victorious, her inner light shining brighter than ever. Imani, still adjusting to the sudden glare of attention, stayed close to Malik, finding strength in his steadfast presence. But unlike the shame she once felt under the spotlight, this new attention felt different. It no longer burned her. Instead, it illuminated her truth, celebrating her courage and compassion. She had been chosen, cherished, defended. Angela, over tea with Imani one afternoon, smiled knowingly, her eyes filled with wisdom. "You see, child, the world admires authenticity. All the wigs, jewels, and lies Veronica clung to could never give her what you have, a heart that shines." Imani blushed, setting her cup down, a humble acceptance of the compliment. "Sometimes I wonder why Malik chose me when he could have had anyone." Angela reached across the table, her eyes warm and reassuring. "Because you saw him when no one else did. Not the billionaire, not the heir, not the powerful man, but the human, broken and in need. That kind of love is rare. It's what will carry you both through the storms still to come." That night, Malik surprised Imani with a private ceremony in the garden, just the two of them. No guests, no cameras, no spectacle, only them under twinkling lights strung through the trees, a magical, intimate moment. He held her hands and whispered, his voice thick with emotion, "The world saw us marry yesterday, but tonight I want this to be just ours. No schemes, no scandals, just vows spoken heart to heart." Her tears fell freely as she nodded, her heart overflowing. "Yes, Malik, always." They exchanged vows again, this time in whispers, their promises carried by the gentle breeze, imbued with a deeper meaning. When he slipped the ring onto her finger once more, it wasn't just a symbol of wealth or status. It was the seal of a love that had survived trials, secrets, and relentless sabotage. For the first time, Imani truly believed she was free, her spirit unburdened. But freedom, she knew, was never permanent. Far away in a dingy motel on the edge of the city, Veronica stared at her reflection in a cracked mirror. Her jewels were gone, her designer gowns replaced with thrifted clothes. Her once flawless skin showed harsh lines of rage and exhaustion, a testament to her rapid decline. "This isn't the end," she hissed at her reflection, her eyes burning with an unquenchable thirst for vengeance. "Imani Carter may think she's won, but I'll make her regret crossing me. I'll rise again, stronger, sharper, and when I do, I'll take everything from her." Her bitter laugh filled the empty room, promising storms yet to come, a chilling, lingering threat. But for Imani and Malik, beneath the glow of their hard-won victory, life felt, for once, like it was just beginning. The city had not stopped talking about the Harrington wedding. For weeks, every magazine cover, television headline, and social media feed carried the same images. Imani Carter in her breathtaking ivory gown, Malik Harrington at her side, and the kiss that sealed a love story that defied every obstacle. But while the world celebrated, Imani's own heart was still learning how to accept peace. She had lived so long in the shadows of cruelty, sacrifice, and secrecy that joy felt like an unfamiliar garment, beautiful yet fragile, as if it might tear at any moment. She stood on the balcony of Malik's penthouse, looking out over the glittering skyline. Night spread across the city, but the lights made it shimmer like a sea of diamonds, a breathtaking panorama. Malik came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, his warmth a comforting embrace that steadied her trembling thoughts. "You're quiet tonight," he murmured, kissing the curve of her neck. "I was thinking," she admitted softly, her voice filled with a quiet wonder. "It still feels unreal, Malik. A few months ago, I was serving soup in a church basement, wondering how I'd pay for school. Now—" She laughed faintly, shaking her head in disbelief. "Now I'm married to the man every woman dreams of. Sometimes I'm scared I'll wake up and it'll all be gone." Malik turned her gently to face him, his deep brown eyes burning with unwavering sincerity, a fierce devotion. "It won't disappear, Imani, not as long as I'm breathing. Everything I have is yours. My wealth, my name, my heart. You gave me life when I was dying in an alley. You gave me love when I didn't believe I deserved it. Now it's my turn to give you peace." Her eyes misted as she pressed her forehead to his, a profound connection passing between them. Then promise me one thing. Promise me we'll never let the past haunt us again." "I promise," he said firmly, sealing it with a kiss that was tender yet unyielding, a vow whispered under the vast, glittering sky. The promise felt real, etched into her soul, but the past had insidious ways of clawing back. Across the city, Tyrone Carter sat in a prison cell, his dreadlocks unkempt, his once proud body now slouched in defeat. His eyes, however, still burned with an unquenchable obsession, a dangerous madness. On the cold wall of his cell, scratched into the concrete, was a single word: Imani. He muttered her name like a prayer, like a curse, like an oath. "She should have been mine. If I can't have her, nobody should." The guards ignored his ramblings, dismissing them as the delusions of a madman, but in Tyrone's mind, vengeance simmered, a dark, festering poison. He would not fade quietly into the shadows. And in an even darker corner of the city, Veronica Carter wandered the streets she once looked down upon with disdain. Her fine clothes were gone, her jewelry pawned, her skin gaunt and weary, her once regal posture stooped by hardship. She had spent her last dollars on cheap motels until even those doors closed against her. Now she slept beneath bridges, begging for scraps from strangers, the very worthless people she had once so cruelly scorned. Each rejection felt like acid, corroding her soul. The humiliation of it gnawed at her pride until bitterness was all that remained, a searing, all-consuming fire. One evening, as she clutched a tattered coat tighter around her shoulders, shivering in the cold, she saw her reflection in a store window. For the first time, she truly noticed what she had become. No longer the glamorous queen of society, but the very thing she once mocked. Homeless, forgotten, invisible. Her lips twisted into a bitter laugh, a sound devoid of joy, filled only with the chilling echoes of her own downfall. "Imani Carter," she whispered into the glass, her voice hoarse with hatred. "You've stolen everything from me. But mark my words, this isn't the end." Back at the Harrington estate, Angela sat with Imani in the library, the firelight casting a soft, warm glow around them. Shelves of books towered over their heads, filled with centuries of wisdom, and the air smelled faintly of cedar and parchment. Angela's voice was calm, but her words carried immense weight, imbued with profound insight. "Child, do you know what today marks?" Imani shook her head, curious. "The end of your bondage," Angela said, a gentle, profound declaration. "For years you lived under Veronica's cruelty, Janelle's spite, Tyrone's malice. But today you are free. You've won. Not just Malik's love, but your dignity, your very self-worth." Imani's tears fell silently, a release of years of pent-up pain and sorrow. "Sometimes I wonder if I truly deserved this victory. After all, I gave up the one thing I had left, my virginity, just to save Malik's life. That shame still lingers in me, Angela. What if people never let me forget?" Angela reached across, taking her hands firmly, her grip a silent reassurance. "Listen to me, Imani. The world is cruel, yes, but your sacrifice was not sin. It was love. You chose compassion over selfishness, life over personal cost. That is the mark of greatness, not disgrace. And remember this, goodness, even when unseen, never goes unrewarded." Those words sank deep into Imani's heart like balm over old wounds, healing and restoring. She realized then that her story was not one of shame, but of courage, of profound, unwavering love. In the weeks that followed, Malik and Imani settled into their new life together. She resumed her nursing studies, now fully paid for by Malik, pursuing her lifelong dream without the burden of financial strain. But she insisted on continuing her work at the soup kitchen, unwilling to forget her roots. "I'll never forget where I came from," she told him one morning as they handed out meals side by side, a picture of quiet partnership. "These people need hope just as much as they need food. If I can give them even a fraction of what was given to me, then I'll have lived well." Malik kissed her temple proudly, his heart swelling with admiration. "And that's why I love you." Together they became more than just husband and wife. They became a symbol for the city. People looked to them as proof that love could rise from ashes, that kindness could endure through the most arduous trials, that justice could ultimately fall upon the wicked while mercy lifted the righteous. Their story resonated, a powerful narrative of resilience and redemption. But beneath the surface, shadows lingered. Tyrone's obsession in prison festered, a dark, growing malignancy. Veronica's bitterness grew in the streets, a simmering volcano of rage. Janelle's disappearance remained a mystery, her fate uncertain. Whispers claimed she had run to Europe, others that she lived in shame under a new name, hiding from her past. Imani knew their story was far from over, that challenges would undoubtedly return, but for now, she chose joy, savoring the peace she had fought so hard to earn. On a quiet evening, as the sun dipped low over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, she and Malik renewed their vows privately once more. No audience, no cameras, no grand spectacle, just two souls bound by an unbreakable love, promising to endure whatever storms may come. Malik held her close, his voice low but unwavering, his promise a fortress against the world. "No matter who rises against us, no matter what shadows return, I will stand with you always." Imani smiled through her tears, her voice steady as she replied, her own vow echoing his. "And I will love you through every battle and every victory, always." They sealed their promise with a kiss, the city lights flickering around them like stars bowing in reverence, witnesses to their enduring love. So, what have we learned from Imani's incredible journey? This story, while a captivating drama, offers profound lessons that resonate deeply with our own lives. First, it reminds us of the extraordinary power of unconditional compassion. Imani's act of sacrifice for a complete stranger, despite her own immense vulnerability and lack of resources, is a testament to the idea that true heroism often resides not in grand gestures of power, but in quiet acts of profound kindness. It challenges us to look beyond appearances, to see the inherent humanity in every individual, regardless of their circumstances. How often do we walk past suffering, quickly judging instead of extending a helping hand? Secondly, the story powerfully illustrates the destructive nature of greed and entitlement. Veronica, Tyrone, and Janelle represent the corrosive effects of prioritizing wealth, status, and superficiality over genuine human connection and empathy. Their relentless efforts to belittle, exploit, and ultimately destroy Imani highlight the dark side of ambition and the insidious ways in which envy can consume individuals. Their ultimate downfall serves as a stark reminder that actions born of malice and deceit rarely lead to lasting happiness or true success. In our own lives, we often encounter individuals who embody these traits, and this narrative encourages us to recognize and resist such toxic influences. Thirdly, Imani's journey is a powerful narrative of resilience and the reclamation of dignity. Her secret, initially a source of immense shame and fear, is ultimately transformed into a symbol of her strength and courage through Malik's unwavering love and her own journey of self-acceptance. It teaches us that our past experiences, even the most painful ones, do not define our worth. Instead, it is how we confront those experiences, how we choose to stand in our truth, that truly shapes us. This is a vital lesson for anyone who carries a burden of shame or feels judged by their past. Finally, the story champions the enduring power of true love and unwavering loyalty. Malik's journey from a disillusioned heir seeking authenticity to a man who fiercely defends and cherishes Imani, not despite her past, but understanding it as part of her strength, offers a powerful vision of what love can truly be. His commitment transcends social status, public opinion, and personal hardship, proving that genuine connection is built on trust, respect, and a willingness to share both triumphs and burdens. It's a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary love stories are found in the most unexpected places, forged in the fires of adversity. Imani and Malik's story closes not with a simplistic fairy tale ending, but with a deeper, more realistic truth. It shows us that love built on sacrifice is unshakable, that justice, though sometimes slow, always finds the wicked, that dignity, though bruised, can be restored, and that goodness, even when hidden in the shadows, will always be rewarded in the light. It's an affirmation of the human spirit's capacity for profound love, relentless perseverance, and the ultimate triumph of integrity over malice.